I'm sharing 100 stunning Christmas decorating ideas, holiday decor, DIY projects, thrift flips, and high-end dupes. I'm sure these festive decorations will ignite and inspire your creativity this holiday season. Christmas is just around the corner and it will be here before we know it, so we are going to start decorating my home. Today we are going to be doing a fireplace mantle. We're going to be decorating some shelves. We are going to be transforming our foyer, and then we're also going to be doing several DIYs. We are going to start off with a garland. Now, I like a big, fat, beefy garland, so that is exactly what we're gonna do. The way we're gonna do it is by intertwining two different garlands. I have a pine garland, and on top of that, I'm going to put a flocked garland. I purchased 2 of these flock garlands from Walmart. They are extremely affordable. You don't need to spend a ton of money on a garland. So what we're gonna do is intertwine these garlands. I simply placed the flock garland over the pine garland, and then I twisted the branches together. By doing this, not only is the flock garland intermixed with the pine garland, there's now a 2-tone color scheme that gives the garland depth. I'm going to be using several ribbons throughout my decor. I was at Hobby Lobby and I found a huge variety of these beautiful dark navy blue and gold ribbons. They had striped ribbon, solid ribbon, and a Merry Christmas ribbon. And I was able to get them for 50% off, which is great for my budget. So what I'm gonna do is take the striped ribbon first. This is a gold and rich navy blue ribbon, and I wrapped it around the garland. This ribbon is a subtle way to introduce my navy blue color scheme. I also needed white in my garland as well. We are going to introduce that color in the form of some leaves. I use these leaves in the fall. They are from Michael's. I purchased a whole bunch of them on sale. And what I'm gonna do is tuck these leaves into the garland in various areas around the entire length of the garland. The second way we're gonna use white is with these poinsettias right here. I have some white and cream poinsettias. I bunched them at the corners. I added some flowers in the center and then some more poinsettias down the sides. I also added some sage frosted leaves. This adds another dimension of color. Then I got some berries. These berries, again, were purchased from Hobby Lobby. They were 50% off. I love this blue tone. It's royal blue and it matches beautifully with my color scheme. So I just took several of these bunches of berries and added them throughout the garland. Once I was done with the blueberries, I got some gold berries and I intermixed those in there as well. You cannot have a Christmas fireplace display without some stockings. I have these 6 cream stockings with a beautiful pearl accent, one for each of us in our family, and I added those below the garland. We've got to have a little bit of sparkle, and we're going to do that in the form of some transparent snowflake ornaments. I purchased these at Hobby Lobby. I'm going to take my snowflake ornaments and tuck them in various places throughout the garland. And the final ornament that we are going to add are these beautiful glass teardrop ornaments. These are from Home Goods. I love the way that the glass is reflective and enhances the glow of the Christmas lights. They look like pretty little icicles hanging down, which enhances the winter feel. Our garland is now complete, so let's focus on decorating the top of the mantle. We are going to add some height, and we're going to do that in the form of some grapevine Christmas trees. I purchased these at Bell's. They were very affordable. They were only $14.99 a piece. I love the height of them and the design. What I did not love was the color, which is of course an easy fix. So what we're gonna do is take these trees outside and I sprayed them in some white gloss Rust-Oleum spray paint. I made sure that the entire tree was coated in this white spray paint. Even though it was covered in the white spray paint, you could still see a little bit of the brown grapevine coming through, which I like. I think it gives the trees dimension. So I didn't spray the whole thing a completely saturated white, but I did paint most of it white. Once I was satisfied with the paint coverage, I let it dry for 1 hour. Because this garland is so busy, we want to keep these trees plain. We don't want to add too much embellishment to them because our eyes need to rest somewhere. So we are done with those trees. They are white, they are beautiful, and they add height and they add symmetry because I have one on each side. In the center, I have a beautiful print. This print is from my website. I have a whole new collection out right now. I love this European winter scene. These village houses are so magical. So I'm gonna stick with that theme. Okay, so this is the final piece that we are going to place on our mantelscape. This print is gorgeous. It looks like an oil painting and it ties everything together. Every year I say, oh, this is my favorite color scheme, or this is my favorite design. But I really do love the design of this mantelscape. I love the color scheme that we're using this year. This is a gorgeous garland and mantle top decor. It has the color scheme gently embedded into the design. The art print makes the display look luxurious. The grapevine trees give the mantle height, and the garland adds a full, lush, and bountiful feel to my fireplace. Now we're going to move right on over from our garland to our shelves. Now, as you know, that print is going to be our inspiration for our shelves. What we're going to create are some wintry village displays. The first thing that we're going to do is get a slew of jars. I have a whole bunch of glass jars, and inside of these jars I'm going to add some frosty snow. This snow is from Walmart. It was only a few dollars. I'm simply going to pour this frosty snow into the jars. I'm going to fill them up, not even a quarter of the way, just enough that it can cover up the bottom of the jar. This faux snow is the perfect winter backdrop that we want in our jars. I have a variety of items that we're going to be placing inside. I have some wintry village houses. These are actually ornaments. I purchased them at Ross and they came in a package of 3. I also have a thrifted Santa. I love this Santa. He was only a couple of dollars and I got him a few years ago. And then I also have a variety of bottle brush Christmas trees. The first item going into the jar is our thrifted Santa. I took him and I poked him right into the hole that was at the back of the jar, and I nestled him into the snow, which held him upright. Then I added a few bottle brush Christmas trees behind him. The rest of the jars are going to get a singular village and 2 bottle brush Christmas trees. I added those to the remaining 3 jars. I love that they coordinate with each other, but they are separate displays that create a cohesive village. Now that our jars are filled, I'm going to add an extra detail to the lid. I have these sparkly crystal snowflakes and some blue thin ribbon. I simply threaded the ribbon through the ornament and then wrapped it around the top of the jar and tied it into a bow. Little details like this take your decor pieces over the top. We could have just left it plain, but by adding this extra detail, it ties my color scheme together and adds an extra bit of sparkle. I have 2 shelves, one on this side and one on the other, and each one is going to get 2 large glass jars. In the center, I have a bigger village house that I'm going to put on top of a marble tray. And then I'm going to add some bottle brush Christmas trees to the side. Behind my large village houses, I'm going to place a wreath. I have a large acanthus wreath, and we're going to add some extra wreaths to the back of this acanthus wreath. I have a pine wreath, and in front of that, I'm going to place a bottle brush wreath. I'm going to wire these wreaths together and then attach it to the acanthus wreath. In the center, I have some leaves Because we want to tie this wreath in with our garland, we are going to be using those same frosted sage leaves, the white leaves, and some gold berries. I really love using ribbon. I think it's such a cheap, easy way to theme your decor. This ribbon in the center, this Merry Christmas ribbon, is just so beautiful. It looks rich and luxurious. I love the sparkly gold Merry Christmas on there. I simply tied it into a bow and added it to the center of my wreath. Once I was done decorating this shelf right here, I did the exact same thing on the other shelf. I love the way that they are individual, but they are similar enough that they look cohesive. They create symmetry and balance on my shelving. Right here on my center shelf, I've added a few more village houses and a bottle brush Christmas tree. And then in the center, I have another print. This print ties together with the print that's on my mantle. This is a 9 by 11, so it fits into this frame beautifully, and it's small enough that I can place it on top of a shelf. The final piece on this shelf is a tabletop Christmas tree. I added the same blue and gold striped ribbon that I used on the garland. I wrapped it around the Christmas tree. I added some ornaments, the same leaves, and gold berries. I love the way that these village houses look on these shelves. It's whimsical, but it's classy at the same time. Because we used higher end materials like glass and marble and stuck to the color scheme in deep, rich navy blue and gold, it gives a feeling of luxury. These cute little village houses light up at night, and it looks like a cold winter village all lit up. We are going to set a festive tone right from the entrance, and we're going to be giving our foyer a holiday makeover. I've done so many different displays in the foyer in the past. Last year we did a North Pole Winter Wonderland. We've decorated the foyer table with pretty jars and nativities. We've done an asymmetrical garland on this mirror. This year we're going to be mixing it up once again. The focal point to our foyer display is going to be a bench. Now, this bench is upstairs in my landing, but I brought it downstairs. I've told you in the past that mixing up your furniture and testing things out is a great thing to do. What we're going to do first is add a garland to the bench. I'm going to attach it to the bench with some thin floral wire. I wanted to use the thin floral wire because I do not want my bench to get scratched. I wired the garland to the bench at the top, in the corner, and then let it drape down the side. We're going with an asymmetrical design with this garland because we want to mix things up and add a little bit of interest to this bench. We want to hide where our wires are connected to the bench. So we're going to get some poinsettias and we're going to place those right over the wire, as well as some more of that Merry Christmas ribbon, which I tied into a bow and placed it right underneath the poinsettias. Next, I'm going to pack this garland full of all kinds of ornaments. I have a whole bunch of gold ornaments, some sparkly ornaments, some ornaments with pearls on them. And then I'm also going to use those same leaves that we used in the other room, the sage leaves, the white leaves. We're also going to be coordinating the berries that we used in the other room. We're using some more of those blueberries and those gold berries. The variety of items that we're adding on this garland to give it dimension. We have the garland that's draping down on this side, so we're going to add a blanket and drape it over the corner on this side of the bench. This is a beautiful plush blanket. It's so soft, it's so luxurious, and it makes this bench feel cozy. To continue on with that cozy factor, I have some pillows that we're going to put on either side. Now, these pillows are pillows that I already have, so I'm not going to go out and purchase anything new. All I'm going to do to these pillows is get some ribbon. I'm going to tie it around the pillow like a present and finish it off with a large bow in the front. This technique is a great cost saver because all you're doing is getting some ribbon and theming your pillows that you already have into the holidays. And then right in the front, I'm going to add this beaded snowflake pillow. I purchased this pillow a few years ago from Home Goods. If you have a bench in your home, theme it into Christmas. It was so easy to do it. Embellishing my bench was a great way to get a custom look for a budget-friendly price. To give this display some height, I'm going to add a tabletop Christmas tree on top of a small marble side table. This Christmas tree was a thrifted Christmas tree. When I got it, it had a brown container. I did not like the brown container, and so what I did was I painted it white and then added a pearlescent paint over the top. I love the sheen that this pearl paint gave the container. To tie my Christmas tree in with the garland, I'm going to be using the same leaves, the same berries, the same ornaments, and then I'm going to add a large white star to the top. I have a set of white lanterns that I really do love. The size and the shape is fantastic, but the color is really stark white. Now, I showed you the base to this tabletop Christmas tree had that pearlescent paint that I used. Well, we're going to tone down that white on the lanterns and add a beautiful pearl sheen to it by painting it in the same pearl paint. The first thing that I did was I needed to remove the glass panes from the lanterns, and then I got a sponge brush and I painted this paint onto the lantern. I made sure that the entire lantern was covered in this paint. I painted both lanterns. Once the first coat was finished, I let it dry for an hour. I ended up doing 2 coats of paint on my lantern because I really loved that pearl sheen. So adding another coat enhanced that pearly sheen, the same sheen that the Christmas tree container had. So I did add an extra coat of paint to achieve that look. Once the second coat of paint had been painted onto my lanterns, I let them dry overnight. I added the glass back into the lantern, and now we're going to embellish them. I'm going to create some mini bunches of botanicals that we're going to tie to the top of the lantern. I got a segment of pine garland, a sparkly gold ornament, a stem of leaves, a stem of the blueberries, and got some thin blue ribbon, which I tied into a bow. I wrapped the floral wire around everything, which attached all of these pieces together. I tied these botanical bunches to my lantern using some fishing line. I love using fishing line because it is strong, but it's also transparent, so it's really hard to see how your pieces are hanging. You don't want to look at the mechanics, so using a fishing line to tie these on was a great item to use. To add a wintry element to my lanterns, we're going to use some more of that faux snow. So I just grabbed a couple of handfuls of the snow and I put it at the bottom of the lantern. Then I got some battery operated flicker flame candles and I placed those right into the snow. Once I was finished with the small lantern, I did the exact same thing to the large lantern. I added the same Christmas floral bunch as well as a set of candles. I nestled these candles into the faux snow. To stagger my lanterns and give them some height dimension, I'm going to place the large lantern on top of a sled and put the smaller lantern right next to it on the floor. I also added a set of white Christmas cone trees. I put a set of these white trees next to the lantern, and then I also added another set of these Christmas cone trees to the opposite side of the bench. This balances out this foyer display and gives it symmetry. How adorable are these foyer decorations? I seriously sat on the floor and just admired the way that everything looked. And then I had to FaceTime my mom because I got to show my mom what everything looks like. And we just had the best time talking and looking at these foyer decorations. The best part about these foyer decorations is I did not buy one new thing. I just moved the bench from another room. I used garland that I already had. I had this tabletop Christmas tree from years past that was thrifted. I enhanced my lanterns. I embellished pillows I already had. So not only does this space look high-end, classy, and inviting, we were able to decorate it on a budget. I love the magical ambiance that Christmas lights give to a home at night. It's my favorite time to look at the decorations. The enchanting displays of twinkling, shimmering lights during Christmas time fills the air with a sense of wonder and delight. Last week, we created a stunning fireplace mantle garland in my family room. Today, we are going to up that elegant factor in my bedroom and create a glamorous fireplace mantle garland. We are going to start off with a long pine garland, which are wrapped in a string of Christmas lights. We are going to hang this garland asymmetrically. I was inspired by the garland that we put on the bench last week in the foyer. I love the way this garland draped down the side of the bench. So we are going to use that design as our fireplace mantle inspiration. To hang my garland, I got 2 command hooks and I put one on each side of the top of the fireplace mantle. I wrapped a thin floral wire around the garland, then twisted it around the command hook. I draped the garland so it descended all the way to the floor on one side, dipped in the middle, and left a small segment of garland on the far side. Every glamorous garland needs some sparkle. I have these strands of gold beads. I took the largest strand of gold beads, attached it to the upper corner, draped it 1/3 of the way across the garland, then draped it all the way back up to the far side. To hold these strands of beads in place, I am simply taking one of the branches from the garland and I'm wrapping it around the bead. This attaches everything together and you don't need to use any extra wire. Next, I took another strand of gold beads. These beads are a little bit smaller and I did the exact same thing. Then I repeated the process with the second and third strands of gold beads. The large beads are from my thrift store and the smaller beads are from Target. So each strand of beads was very affordable. These gold beads look like we put an elegant necklace on our garland. The color scheme this year for my Christmas decorations is blue and white. And the way that I'm getting a lot of that color infused into my designs is through ribbon. I purchased a whole bunch of ribbon at Hobby Lobby, which is where I purchased this Merry Christmas ribbon. I tied this ribbon into bows and then I placed them over the areas that were attached to the gold beads. This ribbon is a great way to introduce the color scheme into the garland, but it also hides the mechanics of how the beads are attached to the garland. I placed some large white poinsettias underneath the Christmas bows. Then I filled my garland with branches of white leaves, frosted sage leaves, gold berries, blueberries, and a few stems of frosty branches. Next, I added some snowflake ornaments in a variety of colors and sizes. I have gold snowflakes and white snowflakes. These range in sizes from small to large. I found these gorgeous icicle snowflakes at Ross. They came in a box of 6 and they were only $4.99, which is a great deal. I'm going to take these icicle ornaments and place them underneath the garland. I love the icy wintry elegance that these ornaments add. For a little more sparkle, I have some gold gems. I purchased these ornaments at Target. To hang them, I got some fishing line, threaded it through the hole on the gem, and then attached it to my garland. I also added a few more gold ornaments throughout the garland to fill any vacant spaces and make the garland look bountiful. The final embellishment that we are going to be adding to our garland are these Dollar Tree terrariums. And we are going to fill them with some of this Walmart frosty snow. So what I'm going to do is get my terrarium and a handful of this frosty snow and place it in the bottom of the terrarium. Then I took a small battery operated sparkly candle and I placed that in the center. I purchased these candles at Michael's and I just nestled it right inside of the frosty snow. To hang our terrariums on our garland, we are again going to be using that fishing line. I just tied it around the top of the terrarium and then attached it to the garland. I love the way that these terrariums drape down. They look like they are floating. The flicker of the candle is so warm and inviting. The movement makes the garland come alive. This garland looks so magical at night. It is stunning, it's elegant, glamorous, a perfect addition to this fireplace mantle. We went formal in the bedroom because I wanted the space to feel luxurious, and I definitely think we met those expectations. Now that our garland is in place, we are going to decorate the top of the mantle. Now I have a large mirror that's on my mantle. It's going to stay right where it is because this mirror reflects the beautiful light fixture, but it also adds height to this area. I'm going to layer a beautiful wintry print in front of the mirror. This print is from my website and it coordinates with the other prints that are in the other room, these beautiful winter village scenes. I selected this particular painting because of the color scheme. It had those blue and whites in the print, and I knew that it would coordinate beautifully with my color palette. I placed this print in an ornate frame that adds to the lavish design of this mantelscape. I will leave a link to this print in my description box. So now that our print is in place, we are going to move on to the sides. I have some tall mercury gold candlesticks. We are going to embellish them. We're going to add some leaves, berries, and gold gems, as well as a blue and gold ribbon. I took my floral wire and I wired a stem of frosted leaves, a branch of gold berries, and a gem ornament. I wrapped the ribbon around the neck of the candlestick. I took the thin floral wire that attached my botanicals together and I threaded it behind the ribbon. Then I twisted the wire together to hold everything in place. This little bunch of botanicals is the perfect embellishment for this candlestick. It adds some unique interest to the candlestick, but it also ties in with my color scheme because of the blue ribbon. So I placed a candlestick on each side. I purchased these sparkly glass and gold Christmas trees at Target last year. I put 2 on each side of the frame in different sizes, a large and a smaller one. These glass trees add a reflective element, and the gold on the bottom of these trees tie in with the other gold accents. The last decorative item that we are going to be adding to this mantelscape are 3 blue and white ginger jars. Because our garland is asymmetrical, we have a gap on one side. So adding these 3 ginger jars takes up that space, but it also adds some color, which is what we want. The ginger jars also add weight to this side. It's also a unique item that you wouldn't think to put on a fireplace. I cannot tell you how much I love the way that this fireplace mantle looks. It is opulent, it's elegant, it's formal and unique. Creating a distinctive design makes this space feel expensive. Even though we used Dollar Tree terrariums, a whole bunch of items from Target, and a ribbon from Hobby Lobby, we were definitely able to get an expensive look for a reasonable price. I love the look of a potted Christmas tree. I think it's so elegant. So I wanted to create my own this year. The container that I'm using was from Kmart. You guys haven't seen a Kmart in years, but that just tells you how long ago I purchased this container. It was really affordable. I loved the size and the shape. However, the color needs to be changed. So we took it outside and we're going to spray it in some white gloss Rust-Oleum spray paint. I made sure that this container was completely covered in the white spray paint. I painted around the top, the sides, and the bottom. Once it was completely coated in the paint, I let it dry for 1 hour. Already this container looks 1,000 times better. So what we're gonna do is get a pre-lit Christmas tree, remove the bottom so it just has the pole, and we're gonna put it in this container. To hold it upright, I'm going to get a whole bunch of towels and just jam it in there. Just press it around so it holds the tree upright. Let's trim this tree, starting with a white star at the top. Then I took some white and navy ribbon and I draped it down the height of my tree. I made a few loops with these ribbons, and instead of wiring them to the tree, all I did was get one of the branches and wrap it around the ribbon to hold everything in place. I filled this Christmas tree with the same ornaments that we put on our garland. I have those snowflakes, I have the berries, the leaves, poinsettias. I even cut a few segments of these gold beads and I hung it on the tree. This is a great way to tie these two elements together, and I simply draped these beads over the branches. I loved these terrariums that we hung on the garland so much that I wanted to add a few more to our tree. So I got 5 more terrariums and I tied them to the branches on the tree. Again, I filled them with that frosty snow and battery operated candles. This tree is the perfect addition to this entire scene. I love that when you walk into this room, you see the tree first, then you go past the tree, you see the beautiful garland, and the scene is so elegant. Both of these pieces coordinate well together because we use the same elements on both pieces. The potted tree also adds height to this overall display and makes the area feel grand. Now that this side of the room is completely decorated, we are going to move over to the other side. I have some tall mirrors and they are going to get decked out for Christmas too. We are going to create some wreaths. I'm going to start off with some bottle brush wreaths that I purchased at Five Below. These were only $3, which is a screamin' deal. To decorate these, I'm going to get a stem of the frosted leaves, a stem of white leaves, and a branch of blueberries. I'm going to stack these on top of each other, and then to attach them, I'm going to get some of that floral wire, and I'm going to wrap them together so that they're nice and tight. Then I took these botanical bunches and I wired them to the wreath. In the center of the wreath, I'm going to add a bow. I'm going to get some more of that Merry Christmas ribbon. I simply tied it in a bow and then got a segment of that floral wire, wrapped it around the bow, and then twisted it around the wreath. Here's a quick warning about using these bottle brush wreaths. They are a glitter bomb. I had glitter everywhere, and I even made sure to do this project on top of the plastic bag, but I still had it all over the counter. It was on my hands, it was in my hair. I was sparkling by the time I was done. So make sure that you do this in an area where you can get glitter. So to hang these wreaths on my mirror, what I'm going to do is get a command hook and I'm going to place it on top of the mirror. Then I'm going to get some more of that fishing line because we love fishing line at this point. And I'm going to wrap it around the wreath and then tie it to the command hook at the top of the mirror. I love the way these wreaths hang down so mysteriously. It's hard to see the fishing line, so they look like they're hovering in front of the mirror. Let's decorate the nightstands on this side of the room. The first thing we're going to do is get some cloches that I purchased at Target last year. We are going to fill the bottom with some frosty snow and then add a lucite deer that I purchased at Ross inside of the snow. I'm going to put a handful of the frosty snow that we bought at Walmart into the bottom of each cloche. I spread the snow out evenly and patted it down so it blanketed the base of each one. I'm going to place the lucite deer in the center of the base. I wiggled it right into the snow. The faux snow will hold the deer upright and keep them in place. Once the deer were situated, I simply replaced the cloches back over the top. These decorated cloches are elegant and enhance the wintry holiday look of these nightstands. Not only do they add a classy touch, but they were a piece of cake to create. My white ginger jars are also going to get dolled up for the holidays with a blue and gold ribbon. The same ribbon we used on our candlesticks. I wrapped the ribbon around the jar and tied it into a bow. I'm going to drape a crystal ornament in the center. These quick and easy embellishments fancy up these jars nicely. And then lastly, each nightstand gets a bottle brush Christmas tree with large pearl ornaments. These nightstands look so pretty, very elegant, and each of these projects was extremely easy to do. Now let's move on and talk about our bedding. Now typically I like to swap out my bedding for the different holidays and seasons, but I'm going to show you how to get a custom look that's very affordable. What you can do is just swap out your pillows for some decorative pillows. Now we are going to make our own decorative pillow, and what we're going to do is get a pillow covering. Now Hobby Lobby has these pillow coverings. They are so affordable. Now I purchased this 18 by 18 pillow covering for $3.99. I brought it home and it is a little too beige for my bedding, so I'm going to use a pillow covering that I already have. But these are great to use if you want a custom look on a budget. What I'm going to do with my pillow covering is I'm going to create a snowflake to put in the center. I'm using my Cricut Maker. I created a snowflake template. Then I had the Cricut Maker cut it out on navy blue iron-on vinyl. I weeded away the excess vinyl from my snowflake design. Then I placed it in the center of my pillow covering. I got my Easy Press. I heated it up to 330 degrees and set the timer for 30 seconds. I placed it over the top of my vinyl and pressed the start button. Because this decal was so large, I needed to move my Easy Press around 4 times. So once the timer had run up on each of the 30-second segments, I just moved it around to make sure that the entire vinyl decal had been heated up appropriately. Once the vinyl had been infused to the pillow covering, I removed the protective plastic coating from the top. Then I filled my covering with a down pillow insert. Look at how cute this pillow is. It's the centerpiece to my bedding. I just placed it right in the center. This was so easy to create. This pillow is exactly what my bedding needed to coordinate with the other navy blue in this room. I created the snowflake design, so if you want it, you can have it. I will leave a link to this free printable in my description box. So if you don't have a Cricut Maker, what you can do is print off this design on some paper, cut it out, and use it as a template. You could put it over some fabric and cut it out, and then get some fabric glue and glue the fabric to the pillow. So there are ways to get this look without having a Cricut Maker. To go along with my center pillow, what I'm going to do is add a little more color to the pillows in the back. And the way that I'm going to do that is with some more of that ribbon. I wrapped it around these pillows like a present and then tied a bow in the front. I used the same technique on the pillows in my foyer last week. These pillows look like precious little presents, but it's also a clever way to affordably tie in your color scheme and create a custom look. All right, my beautiful friends, we are done decorating my bedroom, and what a beautiful scene we have created. The Christmas garland adds a touch of sophistication and beauty. The tree ties the elegant scene together. The nightstands and the wreath create an enchanting atmosphere, and the pillows tie the color palette together. Even though this room feels very luxurious, we know that we kept our costs as low as we could. We are going to get started by crafting some Christmas trees. I have 2 urns and 2 trellises, and we're going to make a Christmas tree out of these. Now, if you don't have a trellis, you can use a tomato cage, and that will work just as well. To attach my garland to my trellis, I'm going to be using some floral wire. I cut 4-inch long segments of this floral wire. I wrapped it around the garland and then wrapped it around the top of the metal trellis. I twirled this garland around the metal trellis, and each time the garland made a complete rotation, I took a piece of floral wire and wrapped it around the garland. The floral wire will attach the garland to the trellis and keep it from sliding down. Once I was finished creating my first trellis Christmas tree, I moved on to the second one, and I did the exact same steps to create this Christmas tree. We're going to be adding a striped gold and navy blue ribbon to this Christmas tree. I'm twisting this ribbon into loops and attaching it to the tree with floral wire. I'm also using some plain white ribbon as well. Now it's time to fill my tree with ornaments and botanicals. I'm using similar ornaments and the same botanicals that I used on my garland. I'm using the blueberries, the white leaves, and the gold berries. Using the same decorative elements will create a cohesive and unified look between the garland and the Christmas tree. And then at the tippity top of my tree, I'm going to add a sparkly crystal snowflake. I used the same decorations on both trees so they would be as close to identical as possible. If you're looking to create a cheap, easy Christmas tree, this project is for you. We only needed a couple of items to create this tree. It was so simple, so easy, but it looks complicated and expensive. In the center of this large mirror, I wanted to create a wreath. Now, I was inspired by the wreaths that are both in my bedroom and also on the shelves next to the TV here in this space. So we are going to combine the ideas of both the wreath in here and the wreath in my bedroom to create this wreath. What I needed was a flocked pine wreath as well as a bottle brush wreath. This bottle brush wreath was from Five Below and it was only $3, so that's a great price. I'm going to take this bottle brush wreath and place it over the top of the flocked pine wreath. I'm going to attach them together by taking a long segment of the floral wire and wrapping it around both wreaths. Then I twisted the wires at the back to attach the wreaths together. Both the wreath in my bedroom and the wreath in here have some leaf and berry picks. So we're going to create some of those for this wreath. I got a frosted leaf, a white leaf, gold berries, and blueberries. And all I'm going to do is stack the leaves and the berries on top of each other. At the bottom, I did the frosted leaf, then the white leaf, and then the gold and blue berries. I got a segment of the floral wire and I wrapped it around the tops of these stems to attach them together. And then to attach these picks to my wreath, I'm just getting more of that floral wire and I'm going to wrap it around the bottle brush wreath. In the center, I'm going to add a bow. This navy blue Merry Christmas ribbon is from Hobby Lobby. I'm simply going to tie it into a bow, take some floral wire, wrap it around the bow, and then attach it to my wreath. To hang my wreath on my mirror, I'm going to be using a command hook. I just placed it in the center of my mirror and then took my wreath and hung it on the command hook. This wreath is the perfect addition to this space because it bridges both the wreaths on my shelf and the wreath in my bedroom together, and it adds a festive touch to this display. In my foyer, I have some lanterns that I spruced up to add some elegance to that space. I love those lanterns so much that I wanted to add a set of lanterns in here as well. I purchased these lanterns at Bell's a few years ago, and this light blue color on the lanterns is perfect for our display. What I'm going to do with my lanterns is fill it with some frosty snow. I took some handfuls of frosty snow and added it to the bottom so we had a wintry base for our deer. These deer are from Ross. They're lucite deer. They're so pretty, and I just nestled them right inside of the snow. We're going to enhance the top of our lanterns with some snowflakes and bows. These snowflakes are from Ross again. They were a great price, and they're so pretty. These lucite snowflakes coordinate beautifully with our deer inside the lantern. What I did was take a segment of floral wire, thread it through the loop on the snowflake ornament, wrap it around the snowflake bow, and then twist the wire around the handle on the lantern. With a few added details, we were able to turn our lanterns into some festive Christmas pieces. I added each lantern on either side of a large mirror. Now, this mirror is a mirror that you just hang on your wall. The reason why we can turn this wall mirror into a tray is because of the raised metal circle around it. It looks like handles, so you can just pick up the tray. Nobody knows that it was originally intended for the wall because it looks perfect as a tray. Now on top of the tray, we are going to add the most stunning lucite deer. This deer is from Home Goods. It was a little more expensive at $39.99, but I've been looking for one for a very long time. I love the swirly antlers and the impressive size. The final addition to our display is this long frosted pine garland. It has some frosted pine cones in it, and it gives the overall display a wintry feel. This wall right here is one of my favorite places to decorate every single Christmas because it's grand in scale, so it needs a grand display. And I think we were able to achieve that this year. The tall trellis Christmas trees are striking. The lanterns add a cozy touch. The deer in the lantern coordinate with the grand deer in the center of the mirror, and the wreath ties everything together. Now it's time to decorate my favorite room in this entire house, which is the kitchen. We are going to start off by creating an extraordinary centerpiece. I put down a vinyl runner first, and over the top I have a glass riser. Now you guys, this riser is actually a computer riser, right? Like you put your computer on it to like lift it up a little bit. My uncle had an extra one of these, so he gave it to me. He's like, I know you can do something with this, and he's right. We are turning this computer riser into a decorative riser we're going to be using for our centerpiece. So I placed this glass riser over the runner. Then I took a circular marble cutting board and placed it on one side of the riser. To the center of this marble circle, I'm going to add a forest of bottle brush Christmas trees. I have Christmas trees in a variety of different sizes and colors. I bunched them together and then put a large glass cloche over the top. Because the riser is glass and you can see underneath it, this gives us a great opportunity to add something below. I took some pieces of garland and a few frosted stems of leaves, as well as gold berries, and I put this greenery underneath the riser. It adds the wintry foliage that makes this centerpiece feel festive. You guys know that I love ginger jars. I use them all the time when I decorate, so I'm going to add a trio of white ginger jars to my riser. I'm taking a segment of navy blue ribbon, wrapping it around the jar, and I'm placing a lucite snowflake ornament in the center. These are the same ornaments we added to our lanterns. Using them over here ties the spaces together. To fill any vacant spaces on my display, I simply took some more of those bottle brush Christmas trees and added them to the display. This centerpiece is classy, beautiful, and festive, and it fits perfectly on my large island. An easy way to tie in your color scheme to any space is to add some ribbon to your light fixture, which is what I did in here. I took that gold and navy blue striped ribbon and I tied a bow around each of my lanterns, and then I also tied some bows around the sconces by my fridge. This simple and easy touch makes a big impact in a space. To this back countertop over here, I'm going to add some mini displays. I took a rectangular marble tray, placed it at the bottom. Then I got a scalloped plate that has a beautiful gold rim, put it on top of the marble tray, and then I created a floral arrangement. Inside this floral arrangement, it has all kinds of white Christmas florals and berries. I also added some gold berries and blueberries to tie in the color scheme. Next to the floral arrangement, I have a tall bottle brush Christmas tree as well as a glass Christmas tree. I was shopping at HomeGoods and I found the most beautiful wreath. It is gold and it has these gems on it that look like frosty snow. So pretty. I had to have it. I'm going to add this wreath to the backsplash behind my pot filler. I got a command hook and I placed it on the tile and then hung the wreath on the command hook. This wreath is so stunning. I did not want to add any extra embellishments. I'm leaving it as is and I think it looks gorgeous. My tall glass fronted cabinets are also going to get some new additions. I have some Snowflake plates that I'm adding inside, as well as a sentimental Christmas plate that I've had for years. At the top, I have some merry and bright plates. These pieces bring in a subtle Christmas touch to my cabinets. I'm amazed by the festive Christmas atmosphere that these decorated pieces bring to my kitchen. The charming forest scene centerpiece, the ribbons, plates, mini displays, and crystal wreath make it feel like a winter wonderland. It brings so much joy and cheer into my daily cooking routine. All I need to do is look around and I feel the holiday spirit. I find myself lingering in the kitchen, admiring the mesmerizing beauty of this space. It truly is a magical sight to behold. Now that we're done decorating the kitchen, we are going to create a display for our breakfast table. Now, we're not going to do anything elaborate because we actually use this table for breakfast, lunch, and dinner, so it has to be something that's easily transportable. What I did was I got a marble Lazy Susan and I placed it in the center of a vinyl runner. This vinyl runner is the same runner that's on my kitchen countertop. If you remember, we created this orchid arrangement. It was a dupe and we saved ourselves so much money by making it ourselves. We are going to add this orchid arrangement to the center of the marble Lazy Susan. To theme this orchid arrangement, we are going to add some blue ribbon. I wrapped the ribbon around each orchid stem and then tied it into a bow. To add an additional festive touch, we're going to place some gold ornaments at the base of the arrangement. These ornaments add an extra sparkle in between the leaves. In front of the orchid arrangement, I'm going to put a Joy Noel sign. It's the perfect size for this centerpiece, and it's a great reminder of the joy that this Christmas season brings. It's finally time to decorate the tree. I turned this into a family affair. I had been so busy with so many other decorations and I was running out of time, so it was all hands on deck. I recruited everybody. They assembled the tree, fluffed the branches, and put up the lights in no time. I love getting the family involved, not only because it makes my job easier, but because they love being involved in decorating the house for Christmas. This tree is so pretty. It's a flocked tree. It's 9 feet tall, and it coordinates with the flocked garland that's on my fireplace mantle. First things first, we needed to add a star at the top of the tree. I have this Mercury mirrored star that is beautiful and reflective, and I simply placed it at the top of my tree. We're going to add a whole bunch of ribbon to the tree. We're going to start off with a wide white ribbon. I purchased this from Michael's. I'm also using some more of that navy blue ribbon that I got at Hobby Lobby, as well as the striped navy blue and gold ribbon. I simply put the ribbon together, I stacked them on top of each other, and then created a loop. You don't need extra wire to attach these to the tree. All you need to do is get a tree branch and wrap it around the ribbon. I continued to loop the ribbon and drape it down the tree Every now and again, I would get a branch and wrap it around the ribbon. I did this in several segments. I did some shorter segments of ribbon and some longer ones. I even took the striped blue and gold ribbon and twisted it into little twirls. This ribbon ties the rest of the ribbon in this room together, as well as reinforces my color scheme. Now that the ribbon is in place, we can just load the tree full of all kinds of ornaments. I have the same ornaments that I used on my garland, on my trellis Christmas trees. I have feathered ornaments, a large gold ornaments, snowflake ornaments, just a large variety of festive baubles. I also used some large white poinsettias and some gold poinsettias and placed those sporadically throughout the Christmas tree. And of course, I've got to add the gold berries, blueberries, frosted leaves, white leaves, a variety of different greenery and florals. These tie all the other decorative pieces that we used in this room together. I have a question for you guys. I've seen people put their Christmas trees on risers to raise it up a little bit off the floor. My Christmas tree branches are awfully close to the floor this year, and I'm thinking I may want to raise it up next year. So if you use some kind of riser to elevate your Christmas tree, leave me a comment and let me know what you do. The final piece that we're going to add to the base of our Christmas tree is, of course, a beautiful tree skirt. This tree skirt is cream and it has some beautiful pearls, the same color and pearls that I have on my stocking on the fireplace mantle. These pieces coordinate so beautifully together and make the base of the Christmas tree feel elegant. We're done decorating the Christmas tree. What do you think? It looks so pretty, right? The twinkling lights on my Christmas tree create a warm glow in this room, making this space feel cozy and inviting. The ornaments glisten and reflect the joy and excitement of the holiday season. The tree serves as a centerpiece for festive gatherings where loved ones come together to create new traditions and share in the holiday spirit. So not only are we done decorating our Christmas tree, we are done decorating this entire space. We've done the garland, the shelves, the buffet, the kitchen, the breakfast table, and of course the Christmas tree. This room turned out more beautiful than I could have imagined. This space brings a sense of enchantment and anticipation as we count down the days until Christmas morning. We are duping several Christmas decor pieces that will elevate the look here in my living room and also in my dining room. I love the look of a cloche. It is a beautiful way to highlight or draw attention to a piece of decor. On my kitchen island, I have a centerpiece. I placed a large glass cloche over several bottle brush Christmas trees, and wow, does that make a statement. I purchased this large glass cloche at HomeGoods years ago, and I have not been able to find another one like it since. So we are going to have to make our own today. And we're not only gonna make one, we're gonna make two. Our inspiration piece cloche is from Home Displays. This is a large size, it's a 12 by 16. I love the bell shape and the knob. This cloche comes in at a price of $199. And I know that we could make one for much less. What we're going to use are two large vases. I purchased these vases from HomeGoods a long time ago. They were $14.99 a piece. The size is fantastic, and it has that similar bell shape where it curves in a little bit and comes back out. These are what we're gonna use to create our cloches. Now we need a knob. I was thinking hard about what I could use as a knob, and I had two apothecary jars I was not using, and the lids on top of these apothecary jars were perfect. I'm going to hot glue these lids to the bottom of the vase. So I flipped my vases over, I got some hot glue, and I ran a line of hot glue along the bottom rim of the lid and then placed it right in the center of the upside down vase. Now, don't be nervous about adding hot glue to glass. I'm going to show you how easy it comes off. I pulled the lid off and I just peeled that hot glue away. The hot glue is a temporary solution for me. If you wanted to make it permanent, use some E6000. I glued the second lid to my second base, and just like that, we have created two stunning cloches. They are so much larger than our inspiration piece. The knob at the top is striking and more detailed, and overall, these cloches look luxurious. Let's calculate the cost of everything that went into creating our cloches. The bases were $14.99. I'm not really sure how to calculate the cost of the lids from the apothecary jars, so we're just gonna round that to $5 a piece. So in total, each cloche cost me $20, which is a huge savings over our inspiration piece at $199, and I like mine so much better. They are larger, they are more detailed, they are stunning. We are adding an extra detail to the lids. I have a navy blue ribbon and a mirrored star. I threaded the ribbon through the mirrored star ornament, wrapped it around the lid, and tied the ribbon into a bow. Now this piece coordinates with my color scheme, and the added detail themes it into Christmas. These cloches are going to highlight the nativities that I have here in the living room. I have two side tables on each side of our couch, and I'm going to add some nativities to these side tables. For us at Christmas time, it celebrates the birth of our Savior Jesus Christ, so it's important for us to have that be a focal point in our home. So what I did with my nativity was I spread the pieces out on the table, added two figures to the top of two cupcake stands. My mother cross-stitched these beautiful sayings and pictures that I framed and added to the nativity as well. In the center, I have an octagonal marble tray. On top of the tray, I placed a small cake stand, and to the top of the cake stand, I put our Holy Family, and then positioned our duped cloche over the top. That mirrored star is in the perfect position. It hovers right above the nativity scene. I duplicated this display on the display on the other side table. I have a larger nativity scene. I placed the pieces in similar areas and set the cloche over the top of the baby Jesus. These nativity scenes look high-end, but they highlight what is most important to us during this Christmas season. If you've been following along my Christmas decorating journey, you know that we have created a whole bunch of wreaths for our decorations this year. So I figured, why not add a wreath to this room as well? We are going to dupe a Horchow wreath. It is absolutely beautiful. This wreath has gorgeous ornaments, beautiful leaves, and the ribbons are stunning. In fact, the only thing I do not like about this wreath is the price of $628. However, it's your lucky day because it's 30% off right now. So it's only $439.60. But that is still far too much for me to pay for a wreath, so we are going to make our own. The first thing we need is a pine wreath. I purchased this pine wreath at Walmart. I also gathered up ribbons, berries, ornaments, and frosted leaves. First, we're going to add the frosted leaves to this wreath. I simply pulled the frosted leaves away from the center branch, and then I took a branch from my pine wreath and wrapped it around the leaves. I continue to add these leaves to the wreath around the entire perimeter. I placed them on the edge so that it would look similar to our inspiration wreath. Next, I took a variety of gold ornaments and pearlized ornaments, and I added them to the wreath. I'm simply going to attach them to the wreath with the ornament hook that's on top of the ornaments. I wrapped it around the wire branch, and it will hold those ornaments in place. We are going to veer off just a little bit from our inspiration piece because we want to customize our wreath to our specific color scheme. So the ribbon that I'm going to use is cream with gold stripes. I folded it up so I would get equal segments and then cut the ribbon. I took the ends of the ribbon and put them together. Then I got a segment of floral wire, wrapped it around the ends of the ribbon to create a loop. Then I placed several of these ribbon loops around my wreath. Next, we're going to add some gold berries and blueberries. We're using blue because that's our color scheme. I simply peeled away these berries from the main stem and then wrapped them around the wire branch on the wreath. Once I was finished positioning my blueberries, I did the same thing with the gold berries. I simply pulled each segment of berries away from the stem and then wrapped them around the branches on my wreath. Our inspiration wreath had these sticks that were poking out around the edge of the wreath, so we're going to do the same thing. I have some sticks that I purchased at the Dollar Tree. I'm going to snip off shorter pieces of these branches and then place them sporadically throughout my wreath. Now at this point, our wreath is looking pretty good, but it needs one more additional detail. On the inspiration piece, it had some spiky ornaments, and I found some similar ornaments at Hobby Lobby. So I added 3 of these spiky ornaments at different areas around my wreath. You guys, I love the way that this wreath turned out. It looks so good. It's very similar to our inspiration piece. It has those same unique details. I certainly haven't made a wreath like this before, and it makes me feel so happy that we saved a ton of money. After calculating all the costs that went into creating my wreath, it was only $26.73. That is a huge savings over our inspiration wreath, and I like mine just as well. I added a command hook to the center of my mirror, then placed my wreath over the command hook. This wreath is the perfect addition to this mirror. I love the way that it looks. I have 2 sconces on this side of the room and 2 sconces over there. And to theme them into Christmas, I took some Merry Christmas ribbon. I purchased this at Hobby Lobby. I wrapped it around my sconces and tied it into a bow. I love adding ribbon to my light fixtures. It's a cheap, easy way to make them feel festive and, of course, bring in your color scheme. I have another large Christmas tree in this room. This room is actually where we do Christmas morning, so it's important that this tree look very festive. We're going to add some ribbon to our Christmas tree. I'm going to be using the same wide white ribbon that I used on the other tree. I'm also using some navy blue and gold ribbon. This is from Hobby Lobby. And then another ribbon that I'm going to be using in here is a snowflake ribbon. So I stacked these ribbons on top of each other and then made a loop. To hold it in place, I'm simply going to get a branch from the tree and wrap it around the ribbon. Then I simply just continue to make loops and add this ribbon down the entire length of the tree. Now that all of my ribbons are in place, we are going to add our ornaments. I have a huge variety of ornaments. I added poinsettias, large white flowers, gold berries, blueberries, and white leaves. I love how full this tree looks. It's definitely dressed to impress and makes this room feel luxurious. Another luxurious addition that we're adding to this tree is at the base. I have this plush tree skirt. This tree skirt is similar to the tree skirt in the family room. They both have pearls, and so do the stockings. So they all coordinate together. I'm thrilled with the way that the decorations turned out in this room. They are classy and elegant. It's also very streamlined in here. I haven't over decorated, and that makes it a very restful and peaceful room. I have the pieces highlighted that I want to have highlighted, like our nativity. The tree is a standout feature in this room. The wreath adds elegance as it's attached to our mirror, and the nativities are front and center. The dining room is one of my favorite places to decorate during Christmas. It's right off the foyer, so it's the first room that people see when they walk into my home, and so I want to make a big impact. We're going to start off by decorating the buffet table that's on the back wall. I wanted to make a standout feature, so I have some tall vases with some pine topiaries at the top. To create these topiaries, I simply got a styrofoam ball and added some pine branches as well as some frosted branches to the styrofoam ball. And then I placed it at the top of the vase. To add some sparkle, I have a crystal snowflake that I added to the center. And to coordinate with that snowflake, I have some snowflake ribbon. This is from Hobby Lobby. I took this ribbon, tied it into a bow, and then attached it to the styrofoam ball. The way that I'm attaching everything to the styrofoam is with these boutonniere pins. These are fantastic because they're long, but they also have a pearl on the end of them. So it's a decorative way to attach everything to the styrofoam ball. I purchased these in the wedding section at Hobby Lobby. Icicles are also another one of those themes that I have throughout my decorations this year. I have some icicles on the fireplace mantle in the family room. I also have some icicle ornaments hanging from the fireplace mantle in my bedroom. I purchased more of these icicle ornaments from Ross, and to hang them, we are going to get some fishing line, tie it to the ornament, and then wrap it around one of my boutonniere pins and then poke the pin into the styrofoam ball. Now my icicles can hang mysteriously around the styrofoam ball. I did 2 on the side and then 1 in the center that hangs below the crystal snowflake. Another simple but impactful element that we are going to add to the vase is a bow. I have this navy blue ribbon that has a gold edge. I wrapped it around the vase and tied it into a bow. I found these adorable glass Christmas trees in the dollar spot at Target. They were only $3 a piece, so I picked up 4 of them and I added 2 to either side of my display. I have a larger glass Christmas tree that I placed on top of a cupcake stand. This gives this tree added height, but also adds dimension to my display. I found the cutest village house at Home Goods. I knew it would be perfect in here because another thing we have going throughout the house is these wintry village houses. So I placed this village house on top of a rectangular marble tray. This house lights up at night and it feels so magical. To enhance this wintry feeling, I have a print that's behind the house. This print is from my website. It's a gorgeous snowy village scene that makes this tabletop feel wintry and magical. I will leave a link to this print in my description box, and don't forget to use code LISA10 to get 10% off everything on my website. Well, we are done with this display scene. I think it looks so pretty. It definitely makes an impact and makes a great first impression as you walk into my home. This grand table needs a grand centerpiece. So we're going to start off with layering 2 runners. I have a plain cream runner, and on top of that, I am going to add a navy blue animal print runner that I purchased at Ross. This runner has a soft velvet fabric, and it brings in that navy blue color scheme to the centerpiece. I think it's time for another dupe. We are going to replicate the mantle garland that we saw underneath the wreath from our first dupe. This mantle garland is just as stunning as the wreath. Again, I love the details that they have added to this garland. The ornaments, the ribbons, everything is stunning, and the price is stunning too. We can try and recreate it for less. We are going to create our garland from 2 swags. I purchased these swags a few years ago at Bell's. Now the best thing about these swags is that they already have some ornaments and pine cones on them, so already we're off to a great start. We are going to add a few more ornaments to the swags. I'm going to be using those same gold and pearlized ornaments. I'm going to attach them to the swag, by simply using the ornament hook that's at the top of the ornament, and I'm going to wrap those metal hooks around the pine branches. Next, we're going to be adding those blue and gold berries. Again, I simply peeled these berries away from the stem and added them to our swags in various areas. I also took a few more of those frosted leaves, pulled them off the center stem, and added them to the swag. Again, we are going to be taking some creative liberties because we want our swag to coordinate with our color scheme. So we're going to be using that cream and gold striped ribbon. I took segments of this ribbon, wrapped them into loops, took a segment of the floral wire, wrapped it around the ribbon, and attached it to the swags. I'm also going to be using pieces of those sticks that I purchased at the Dollar Tree. I'm going to snip off segments of these and place them into the swag. Now that our swags are beautifully decorated, we're going to turn them into a garland. I placed both of these swags over the runner on my dining table, and at the top of each swag is a loop. So I took a pine branch from one of the swags and threaded it through the loop on the second swag. Now it looks like I have one gigantic garland, and it fits perfectly in the center of my table. I think our garland looks pretty similar to our inspiration piece. Again, we did take some liberties with the color scheme, but the size and the shape and the decorative elements we added are very similar. After calculating all the costs that went into creating my swag, the grand total was $32.23. Which means we saved hundreds of dollars by creating this ourselves. Over the center of the garland, I'm going to add a marble riser. Adding risers is a great way to add height to your display. I did want to bring in a little bit more of that navy blue color scheme, so I figured I could do that with some fabric. While I was at Hobby Lobby, I got some beautiful velvet navy blue fabric. I only needed half a yard, so it was very affordable. I folded this plush navy blue fabric in half and draped it over the marble riser. To the top of the riser, I'm going to add Santa's sleigh. And of course, every sleigh needs to be pulled by a reindeer. I have this beautiful gold reindeer that I placed in front of the sleigh. I attached 2 gold beaded garlands to the deer and strung them all the way to the sleigh. Santa's bag also has to be in the sleigh, so all I did was get a cream canvas bag and fill it with polyfill, and then I had these adorable little presents that I added to the top. They are spilling over the bag into the sleigh and then onto the riser. This is also a great opportunity to enhance that color scheme. I tied these presents with some navy blue ribbon as well as some white and gold ribbon. I wanted to add something decorative to either side of the sleigh. My original idea was to add some of those grapevine trees to some cake stands, but I felt like it was just too casual for the space, so I decided last minute to switch it up and create 2 more tall topiary vases. These vases are actually taller than the vases that are on the buffet, but I did the exact same thing with these. I took a styrofoam ball and wrapped the pine branches and the frosted branches over the top. I added a crystal snowflake to the front as well as the snowflake bow. And to the sides in the center, I added more of these icicle snowflake ornaments. I attached everything with those same boutonniere pins and then wrapped a blue ribbon trimmed out with gold around the base and tied it into a bow. These tall vase topiaries make this tablescape feel so grand. They make a huge statement, and of course they coordinate beautifully with the topiaries in the vases on the buffet. Just like the other lights in my home, this light fixture is going to get a ribbon. This ribbon is the Merry Christmas ribbon. I wrapped it around the top of the light and then tied it into a bow. On this back wall over here, I have 2 large white ginger jars. I hung a star on the lid and then added some frosted berries, pine cones, and a sparkly gem to the star. And of course, this room would not be complete without another wreath. I have a very similar wreath to the other wreaths that I have created here in this room. I have this pine branch wreath with the bottle brush wreath in the center. I have a similar wreath in my family room on the mirror, on the shelves in the family room. I hung 2 of these wreaths on the mirror in my bedroom. And of course, you saw that duped wreath that we placed on the mirror in the living room. So what I did with this wreath was I added those 2 wreaths together, took 2 picks that I made from frosted leaves, white leaves, gold and blue berries, and then took that Merry Christmas ribbon, tied it into a bow, and attached it to the center. We are hanging this wreath with some fishing line because I love the way that it hovers and you don't know how it's connected. But it is connected to a command hook that is above the mirror. Using the fishing line makes this wreath look like it's floating. It is a little early in the season to dress our table, so that will be coming later on as we get closer to Christmas. But this dining room is completed, it's decorated, and it looks so festive. The rooms that we decorated today coordinate so well with the other rooms that we have decorated in our home. The dupes that we made today were great additions to the decorations in these rooms, and it makes it even better knowing that we saved so much money by making them ourselves. We were definitely able to create affordable pieces of home decor today that look expensive. We're going to start off with our marble tray. On top of the marble tray, I'm going to put this sage colored mini ginger jar, as well as a few bottle brush trees that I've collected over the years. Behind that, I have my laurel wreath. Now, I love this gold laurel wreath. I actually purchased these at Ross, and they were really affordable, and they look like wreaths. So I thought, this is perfect. I will leave them just as is. And then to my white ginger jars, which I purchased at HomeGoods, what I'm gonna do is take a star ornament, and I'm simply just gonna drape it around the top of the ginger jar. To this star ornament, I'm going to add some frosted leaves and gold berries. And then at the top of the ornament, I'm going to take this sage and gold ribbon, and I'm going to tie it into a bow. Once I was done with this side, I moved on to the other side, and I did the exact same thing. I got a tray with some bottle brush trees, a mini ginger jar, and then I jazzed up my large ginger jar. The only difference is on this side, I have a large white plate behind my laurel wreath, but besides that, they are identical. Now we're gonna move up one shelf to the top, and to the back of these shelves, I have some mirrors. And what we're gonna do with these mirrors is we're gonna put a wreath smack dab in the center. We are going to create this wreath with a pretty flimsy, cheap Walmart wreath. I've had it for a long time, and I'm going to flatten out those branches. I bent half of the branches one way and half of the branches the other. So now I have a space in between those flattened out branches to put another wreath, which is what we're gonna do. I got these gold bottle brush wreaths at Five Below, and they were only $3. So I placed that bottle brush wreath in the center of our pine wreath, and I'm going to attach them together with my favorite crafting tool, which is my fishing line. You guys know I love this stuff. So I took some fishing line and I wrapped it around both wreaths and then tied it into a knot. To the center of my wreath, I'm going to add a sparkly crystal snowflake. So what I'm gonna do with this is take my fishing line and I'm gonna thread it through the hole in the top of the ornament and then tie it around both wreaths to secure everything together. Then I got that same sage and gold ribbon and I tied it into a bow, and then I attached it to my wreath with that fishing line. And finally, I took some mini gold ornaments and I placed those sporadically throughout the bottle brush wreath. In order to hang these wreaths in the center of these mirrors, what I did was I got a command hook and I placed it right on the tippity top of the frame in the center of these mirrors. I'm gonna zoom in so you guys can see. Then I took my fishing line and I slid it around the command hook, and now my wreath can drape down in front of this mirror. I created an identical wreath for the other side, and I did the exact same thing. I put it on the command hook and let it drape down in front of the mirror. And then I created one more wreath. This is a larger wreath. It has a larger pine wreath. I'm still using the same bottle brush wreath for the center, but the outside wreath is much larger. Why? Because we are going to be putting it in the center shelf above the TV, and this is a larger space. So I did the exact same process as I did on my other wreaths. The only difference is I put the gold ornaments on the pine wreath as opposed to the bottle brush wreath. Now to hang this wreath up, I'm going to be getting some fishing line, but this time I'm going to use a tack. This is a transparent tack, and I wrapped the fishing line around the tack, and then I just popped it right into the top of the shelf. And now my wreath can hang down. Oh, and I almost forgot. Instead of using a crystal snowflake ornament like I did on the other two, I'm going to put a large white star in the center of this wreath. To go on either side of my wreath, I thought it would be fun to hang some gold snowflakes. So I wrapped some fishing line around these snowflakes, and I popped them into the top of the shelf with those transparent tacks. So even in the wintertime here in Florida, we have the air conditioning on. One benefit to having that air conditioning blow on these snowflake ornaments is that these ornaments twirl and they look like they're snowflakes just blowing magically in a storm. In front of my wreath, I have a nativity, and I really wanted to put it right smack dab in the center because I want this to be the focal point, because it's what is important to me at Christmas time. And then on either side of our Holy Family, I placed some glass Christmas trees. I purchased these at Target last year. I put 2 on each side, and now everything is symmetrical and everything is just perfect. These shelves were decorated so simplistically. I used things that I had already and I just added some holiday flair to them. And then I took some inexpensive wreaths and I just put them together to make them look fuller and lush and hung them in front of some mirrors. These are some simple decorating ideas that you can easily implement into your own holiday decorations. I strung the lights on my tree, and this year I went vertically. I just went up and down, which made this process go twice as fast because I wasn't fighting with the string of lights as I was wrapping it around the tree. So that's a good tip. Try and hang your lights vertically this year. And the lights on the tree just enhanced the flocked snow so much more. It made it shimmer and shine and look like real snow. And I love that this tree is neutral because it will make all the ornaments of the ribbons and everything that we're putting on it pop. Now that our tree is assembled, we are going to add some ribbon. I have 3 different ribbons. The first is a large white ribbon, and then I have our sage and gold ribbon, and then the third is a snowflake ribbon. It has gold and silver, so it will tie all kinds of metallics together. So I made a loop with these ribbons and I attached it to the top of the tree with some floral wire. Then I'm going to cascade this ribbon down the tree. And every, I'd say 2-ish feet, I took a branch from the tree and I wrapped it around the ribbon to hold it in place. I simply continue to drape the ribbon down the tree, which adds such a beautiful touch while also establishing our sage white and gold color scheme. Now that our ribbon is in place, we are going to add a variety of Christmas botanicals. I have frosted leaves, white poinsettias, other wintry white flowers, gold berries, and then I also have some lamb's ear. Now, the lamb's ear isn't a typical Christmas botanical, but because I knew that I was going to be using this sage color, I thought that the minty color of the lamb's ear would go perfect. So I made sure to get some extra lamb's ear after spring so I could save some money on those. So I'm going to take all of these beautiful botanicals and I'm going to add them to my tree. Now it's time for the ornaments. I have a huge variety of ornaments that I'm going to be using. I have, of course, just our traditional round ornaments, but I also have some feathered ornaments, some sparkly crystal ornaments, metallic ornaments, ornaments with pearls on them, just a large variety of beautiful ornaments that I've collected over the years, and I hung them on my beautiful tree. At the base of my tree, I'm going to be putting a tree skirt. I love this tree skirt. It is from Ross and it was under $30. It's a white color and it's got these beautiful pearls on it. And as you'll see, as we decorate throughout this season, we're going to have that recurring theme of pearls. And I love that this tree skirt is going to tie that pearl element into our decorating. The way that this tree looks just exceeded my expectations. You know how you think that something's gonna be good, like a sage green ribbon, but you're not 100% sure? Well, I'm 100% sure now. I love that element in here, that sage green color with the lamb's ear and the frosted leaves and the frosted tree. This tree is very neutral, it's soft, it's elegant, and we packed it full of all kinds of botanicals and ornaments and ribbons. It looks so expensive, so high-end, but we really did keep it on a budget. And I couldn't be happier with the way that this completed Christmas tree looks.
How come all ye faithful, joyful and triumphant?
It's time to move on and decorate our fireplace. Now, this is one of my favorite places to decorate every single year, and every single year I come up with a different design for the garland. Now, believe it or not, I have never hung stockings from my fireplace mantle. Shocking, right? And the reason is because I always do like an elaborate garland, and I just don't have space for the stockings. This year, I am putting stockings on my fireplace. And the ones that I found were actually from Ross, and they were only $5.99 a piece. They have those pearls on them, which is perfect. It coordinates so beautifully with my tree skirt and all the other pearl elements that we're going to be adding to our decorating. So because I'm hanging my stockings, this year I'm keeping my garland pretty tight to the top. So I took my garland that had already been strung with lights and I put it just over the top of my mantle. Now, on my mantle, I have screws on either side. Years ago, I added some screws because my garlands are so heavy that the command hooks just wouldn't keep it up. So I had to add some screws. So I've got one on either side, and in the center, I have a command hook just to kind of keep everything from falling over in the center. It doesn't carry a whole lot of weight. So I got my garland up, and then I took some beautiful lamb's ear, some gold magnolia leaves, and some other gold leaves, and I'm going to just put them sporadically throughout this garland. The lamb's ear adds that beautiful sage color. Now, because our tree is flocked, I wanted to add some flocked pieces to my garland. Last year, we made some flocked pieces to go in our topiary trees, and so I had those extra flocked pieces from last year, and so I just added those to my garland as well to brighten it up a little bit more and to tie in those flocked elements. Now that all of our botanicals are in place, we are going to add these beautiful ribbons, the same ribbons that we've been using in all of our spaces throughout the room. So I just took that white ribbon, the sage ribbon, and the snowflake ribbon. I put them together and created a bow, and then I attached them on either end of my garland. Next, I added some white poinsettias and some gold poinsettias, and then a large frosted flower in the center. And then I just went to town and added all kinds of ornaments. I added some pearl studded ornaments, gold ornaments, satin round ornaments, snowflake ornaments, and then on either side, I added a large white tassel. The final touch is to add some more of those gold berries sporadically throughout the garland. This is a great filler These berries will fill in any vacant spaces. And now we are completed with our gorgeous Christmas garland. I love the way it looks. I love that it is up high so that it can highlight those stockings that are hanging down. Now, my daughter did ask me, when Santa comes down the chimney, what are we gonna do when the stockings are in the way? And I said, well, don't worry about that. I'll tell our elf on the shelf flower to move those out of the way before Santa comes down the chimney. That way he can make his entrance into the room very easy. One other tip I'm gonna give you is how I hid my cord, my electrical cord, because you don't wanna see any of that. So what I did was I got some command hooks, some smaller ones, and I just placed my electrical cord right inside of those command hooks. I took it over to the wall and then I let it drop down behind my drapes so you can't really see the electrical cord. Now on top of my mantle, I'm going to be adding some large gold mercury glass candlesticks, but I didn't want to leave them plain, so I'm going to add some bows, and to the bows, I'm going to add the same frosted leaves and gold berries to the center. And then in the middle part right here, I've got some large cone Christmas trees. They're white and they have this pretty sparkly, shimmery top that looks like they're flocked with snow. These trees add a lovely winter element to my fireplace mantle. And now we're finished with our mantle decorations. I love how classy this looks. It's timeless, it's elegant, and I'm overjoyed with the color scheme. We have the same color scheme on our shelves, on our mantle, on our tree. And they tie together because we use the same elements in each one of these areas. We have the same ribbons. We incorporated the same greenery, the same ornaments, the pearls and the sparkly snowflakes. And by doing this, it ties each of these spaces together. We are going to do a thrift flip. We have some amazing decorating pieces, and we are going to begin right here at this mirror. I am going to do an asymmetrical garland over this giant mirror. I absolutely love this mirror. We are going to theme it into Christmas. We're going to start with a very thick garland, and we are going to drape it across this mirror. So I took my thick pre-lit garland and I added a screw to the wall. I don't typically do this. I like to use command hooks, but this garland is so big, I do not want it falling off midway through the season. So we're gonna put some screws in the wall, one on either side of our mirror, and we'll just have to putty it up and paint over it when Christmas is over, but that's okay. That's an easy fix. So what we're gonna do is we're going to attach one end of our garland to the screw on one side of the mirror, and then I'm going to drape it down ever so slightly and then put the other side, which is about halfway through the garland, on the other screw that's on the other side of the mirror. And then I'm going to let this garland drape down almost to tabletop height. Now that our garland is securely in place, we are going to add some bows. Now, as you know from our video last week, our accent color this year is sage. We're doing a sage, white, and gold. So I took those three colors and I created a bow and I put it on either side of the garland at the top where it was connected to the wall. And then I put some beautiful poinsettias right above those bows. At this point, I added all kinds of greenery. I put some gold magnolia leaves, some other gold leaves, frosted leaves, and some lamb's ear. Do you remember the garland that we made last week on our fireplace mantle? Well, we are taking those same leaves and berries and we're adding them to this garland. That way they tie together. This is really important, especially because these elements are in the same room. After all the greenery was in place, I added all kinds of ornaments. I have some round ornaments, some snowflake ornaments, some reindeer ornaments. I think my favorite garland embellishment are these gold gems. I purchased these at Target and I placed these around the garland, especially at the top, so they could hang down and add an extra element of sparkle. A garland like this is a beautiful way to highlight a mirror because you're drawing attention to an already beautiful piece. You're simply embellishing it to make an existing piece a statement piece. Now we're going to move on to this tabletop Christmas tree right here. I found this tree a few years ago at my thrift store. If you remember this tree, we changed the base of it. We added a pearlescent sheen to the container and it looks so pretty. I'm going to decorate this tree in the same way that I decorated our large tree. So I'm going to start with some beautiful ribbons. We've got those white and sage ribbons. We're going to add the same greenery that we have throughout this space, followed by similar ornaments that we've used on our tree, on our mantle, on our garland. And then finally, we're going to finish it off with a mercury glass star at the top. What this tree does is it brings balance to this wall. Because we have an asymmetrical garland, what we need is a piece over there to make it symmetrical. And so by putting this tree there, it adds that symmetry that we are looking for. This year, I wanted to create a wintry North Pole scene on my buffet. I was able to do that by purchasing these two houses from Home Goods. They were $16.99. I absolutely fell in love with them the minute I saw them. I love the way that they are covered in this sparkly glitter snow. They have the bottle brush trees that we use all over the place, and they have silver and gold. So it has that gold in it, but it's also bringing in another metallic. And the best part about these houses is that they light up. So it makes them come to life and it brings some warmth to our village. The first house I placed on top of a small marble tray, and then our church we put on top of a sled. Other pieces that we have placed on our sled are Santa's sleigh. This was given to me last year by my next door neighbor, and again, it fits perfectly into that gold and silver theme. Inside of our sleigh, we have to have Santa, of course. This is a thrifted Santa. I purchased him last year. The scale of his size is perfect for this sleigh. And then we have some gift boxes that have white and gold on them and some pretty ribbons. I placed some inside the sleigh, and the other gifts are spilling out onto the ground. On the far side right here, I have some smaller village houses. These are actually ornaments, and I found them at Ross. They came in a package of 3 for $12.99. These little houses match my larger houses perfectly. Another thing that they do is they bring in that sage color because of the small bottle brush trees that are on these houses. I placed 2 of these houses inside of some cloches that I purchased at Target, and I added some Epsom salt snow to the bottom of these cloches before I put my houses in. And then I have another village house inside of a larger jar. I put some Epsom salt snow in the bottom of this jar as well. And to the top of this jar, I added a glass beaded garland, and I tied it together with a sage ribbon. And guess what, you guys? These little houses light up too. So all of our houses light up. At night, it looks so warm and inviting with the glow that's coming from these houses. It really brings this wintry North Pole village to life. Instead of using a runner or a tablecloth, what I did was I took a fuzzy cotton blanket, I folded it into thirds, and I used it as a runner. So if you don't have a winter themed or a Christmas themed runner or tablecloth, rummage through your blankets and see what you can find, because that will be a great substitute. So now we are finished with our display on this wall. I love the way it looks. It ties all of the pieces together in the room. It is a statement wall. and it makes this room feel so Christmassy. Now let's move on and decorate the kitchen. We're going to start off creating a centerpiece on our center island. I have this Christmas tree that I purchased at my thrift store way back in the summer. It was only $3.99, which is a great price for this tabletop Christmas tree. Do I love the color of the container? No, I do not. But as you know, that is a very easy fix. So what I did was I took some grocery bags and I put it over the Christmas tree itself, and then I protected the bottom of the tree with some blue painter's tape. I took my tree outside and I sprayed the container in some white Rust-Oleum spray paint. I made sure the entire container was completely covered in this white spray paint, and then I let it dry for 1 hour. Last week, we decorated our large Christmas tree in this room, and it was a flocked tree. So I thought I would try my hand at flocking this mini tree. If it all goes wrong, we're only out a couple of dollars. So I figured this was a good place to experiment. So the way that I'm going to flock my tree is I'm going to use some Christmas flocking snow. I purchased a bag from Walmart. It was only $3.98. And then I also got some spray adhesive. So the first thing that I did was I lightly misted this tree with that same white gloss Rust-Oleum spray paint that we used on our container. You don't want to put a heavy coat on this, just a light mist will be perfect. For this next part, you are going to want to get a buddy. I enlisted the help of my darling aunt. She's going to be the snow flocking sprinkler, and I'm going to be the spray adhesive sprayer. So I sprayed the spray adhesive onto the tree, and she went right back behind me and sprinkled the flocking over the top of the spray adhesive. We just went around this tree and sprayed the adhesive and then sprinkled that faux snow over the branches. We tried to keep the flocking to the tips of these branches. That way it looks like the trees have been lightly dusted in snow. We don't want this tree to go through a blizzard, just a lovely winter storm. Once we had the flocking to our satisfaction, I gave it a good little shake to get rid of any excess flocking that wasn't stuck to the adhesive. When the adhesive dries, it does not dry sticky. So you are not going to have a sticky tree. The branches are not going to be sticky. That was one thing I was concerned about. So don't be worried about the spray adhesive making your tree gloopy and stuff like that, because when it does dry, it will not stick. How cute is this tree? We did a very minimal amount of things to this tree to zhuzh it and to flock it and to make it look 100 times better. I can't believe we purchased this for $3.99. It looks like a $30 tree that you could get at any store. So what I'm gonna do with my tree is add some battery operated lights. I'm gonna wrap those around the tree, and then I'm going to fill my tree with some ornaments, with some berries, and then I'm going to add a white and sage bow to the top. I created a floral arrangement to put to the side of the Christmas tree. I used a gold reindeer bowl, and I added some white florals with some white poinsettias and some gold berries. And then in front of this arrangement, I placed a few more of our village houses, the same ones that we used right here on our buffet. I placed 3 of those down on that marble tray, and then I added a few bottle brush trees to the back. This centerpiece is so cute. It's the right size. It's not too big, so it's taking up a whole lot of counter space, but it does add that Christmas element to the center of the kitchen. Now we are going to take our eye up to the pendant lights right above the island. And what I did with these was simply add a sage bow to each of the lights. I put it at the top, and I love the way that this again brings in that sage color to the kitchen. It's a very subtle decoration. You wouldn't even notice it unless you were looking for it. But again, it just is a detail that takes our designs over the top. Now we're going to move to the back of the kitchen, and we are going to create some little vignettes on either side of the stove. I have a marble tray, and on top of that tray, I have a floral arrangement. Now I leave this floral arrangement out for the majority of the year, so it's not anything that I'm creating new. But what I am going to be doing with this flower arrangement is adding some detail. I simply put in some gold berries around the arrangement, and then to the side of this arrangement, I added 2 bottle brush trees, one in this minty sage green and a white one. Again, super simple, but very impactful. In the glass front cabinets, I'm going to add some beautiful plates. I have some snowflake plates. I have a very sentimental plate that's important to me. It was given to me by my grandfather. I put it out every year. I absolutely love this. I took some glass candle holders, I flipped them upside down, and to me they look like snowflakes, so I put those on top of a stack of plates. And then at the very top, I added merry and bright plates. I got these last year. These are actually paper plates, you guys. But because they're up so high, you don't know that they're paper plates, and it was a great way for me to save money. And then finally, we are going to create a wreath to put around our pot filler. I just simply got a small wreath. I added all of those same bows, ribbons, ornaments, and botanicals to this wreath. I got a command hook and I put it on the tile, and then I placed this wreath right over the top of the command hook. I've used command hooks on tile before, and they come off cleanly. They do not leave any residue. So if you do want to hang something on a backsplash, use a command hook. It will work perfectly. Now our kitchen is decorated for Christmas. We used a lot of small, subtle, simple techniques to decorate this space. We didn't go overboard, but it looks so festive. Anyone could do this. I leave it out for the majority of the year. And the way that we are going to theme it into Christmas is by adding some gold and sage bows. I simply tied some bows around the stem of the orchid and the stick that holds it upright. I left some long tails on these bows. I added it to all 4 of my stems. And then at the top of the container, I put some ornaments. I just scattered a couple of them amongst the leaves. Adding these ornaments give it a holiday feeling and a little bit of sparkle. Now this is all that we're going to do on this breakfast table, because we actually use this table daily, multiple times daily. So we have to be able to pick up that centerpiece and move it off. And if I have too many things on this table, then we're gonna have some angry customers at this house. So this one detail, this one centerpiece, this one giant arrangement in the center is more than enough to decorate this breakfast table. Okay, you guys, we are finished with this room. We have done the entire space. We have our tree up, we have our mantle decorated, we've got our shelves set and decorated. We have this wall completed with the garland and our wintry village. We've got the kitchen set with our centerpieces and the wreath on the backsplash and the bows on the lights, and we finally have our centerpiece on our breakfast table. This room is completed and it all flows seamlessly together. Why? Because we use the same bows, the same ornaments, the same leaves, the same greenery, all throughout this space. So it is a cohesive design and each space complements each other. We're gonna start right here at the buffet, and we're gonna make some Christmas trees out of some garlands. These topiary Christmas trees are going to be created by wrapping a garland around a trellis and then placing them inside of this white urn. Now, what I want to do with these garlands is flock them. I was inspired by our mini thrifted Christmas tree that we have on the centerpiece in our kitchen. I love the way that that turned out. So I wanted to flock some garland pieces so we could have some flocked trees. I have these garlands. They're nothing special. I've had them for a long time. They didn't cost me very much money. So what we can do is make them better than they already are, and we're gonna do that by flocking it. So I took these garlands outside. I also have a wreath that I'm going to flock. I laid them out, and then I got some white gloss Rust-Oleum spray paint, and I sprayed a light mist over the top of these garland pieces. Once everything had been lightly sprayed, I let it dry for 30 minutes. Then I turned them over and I did the exact same thing. I sprayed them in this white gloss Rust-Oleum spray paint, and they had a lovely wintry look to them. To add some extra flocking, I have a can of Santa Snow, and I sprayed a light mist over the top of this garland again. I made sure that everything was covered in this Santa Snow, and then I let it dry for 30 minutes. Then I flipped it over and I did the other side. I sprayed it lightly in the Santa Snow. This Santa Snow gives this garland a flocked look because it's a little more chunky, more like real snow. Once everything was sprayed, I let it dry for an hour. This is an easy and inexpensive way to get a flocked garland. The garland is flocked, it's dry, so now we're back inside and we're going to attach this to our trellis. I added some Christmas lights to it. It goes all the way down, and we're going to attach it to the trellis with this floral wire. So I've got floral wire, I've got my wire cutters. I'm going to take a little segment of this floral wire, and I'm going to wrap it around the top of my garland and around the top of the trellis, and that will hold everything in place. And then I'm just gonna wrap this garland around the entire height of the trellis. Just got finished putting this last wire on our garland, and as you can see, it is wrapped around the entire height of our trellis. And we've got these green wires that are just sporadically placed throughout this garland. You can't even see them because they match in with the garland. So everything is set and ready for decorating. At the top of my trellis Christmas trees, I created some bows. These are going to be my toppers. I'm using some white ribbon and some sage ribbon and some sparkly gold and white ribbon as well. Then I simply added a large variety of ornaments to my trellis tree. I placed them all around the tree, and then I also added some gold magnolia leaves and stems of gold berries. This was such an easy way to create a Christmas tree. I used things that I already had. I had the urn, the trellis, and the garlands, and we created a Christmas tree. So if you have a small space or you just don't want to buy a Christmas tree this year, but you have these items, this is a great alternative, but still gives you the feeling of a Christmas tree. I placed one trellis Christmas tree on this side and the other on the other side of the mirror. And then in the center, I created a nativity scene. This nativity I purchased in Guatemala. It was handmade. I love the rustic feeling of this, and also the color. The contrast between the rustic and the elegance in this room is just perfect. What I did with my nativity is I placed it on top of my buffet table, and then I wound a string of Christmas lights around the pieces. And then I'm gonna use some polyfill over the top. Now this polyfill does double duty. The first way is that it hides all of the mechanics from the Christmas lights. It hides the extension cord and the wires from the Christmas lights. They disappear underneath the polyfill. And secondly, it gives my nativity a heavenly feel. The white polyfill looks like clouds. It looks beautiful during the day, but it looks magical at night. I also added some framed sayings on either side of my nativity. This nativity is a beautiful focal point in this room. Because we're in a dining room, I wanted to use my bar cart. I love this bar cart. I got it at my thrift store and I love decorating it. It's one of my favorite pieces, probably because I can move it from room to room and it's just so versatile. So what I'm going to do with my bar cart in here is I'm going to place some apothecary jars on the top. I have 2 large apothecary jars that we're going to start off with. Now, typically I like to use Epsom salt as snow, but I had some leftover faux snow from when we flocked that mini Christmas tree that's the centerpiece of my kitchen. So I'm just gonna pour that faux snow into my apothecary jars. I purchased this snow at Walmart. It was only a couple of dollars, and I love the way that it looks like real snow. After my snow was in place, I put some bottle brush Christmas trees in the center. These are gold Christmas trees with some beautiful gold ornaments around them. And then to the top of my jar, I added a sage ribbon that I threaded through a crystal snowflake ornament. I simply tied this to the top of each one of my large jars. I love this added detail. It makes these jars feel so fancy. And then I added a smaller apothecary jar to the center. I did the same thing with this. I added that faux snow and a gold bottle brush Christmas tree. This time I just tied a plain ribbon to the top without the ornaments. You have to have some treats on a bar cart, right? So I added 2 smaller apothecary jars and I put some chocolates in one and some candy canes in the other. And then on the bottom shelf, I placed a picture. I love this picture. This just warms my heart and it ties in the whole nativity theme of this room. To the center, I have another small apothecary jar, which I'm going to add some moose munch to, because who doesn't love moose munch, right? Grab a handful of that and you're good to go. And then to the far side, I have a cake stand. I put another bottle brush Christmas tree on top of that and covered everything in a glass cloche. And to tie the sage ribbons together, I created a bow around the top of this cloche. Isn't this bar cart so fun? When people come by, they can grab a snack on the way in or on the way out. That is if these treats last. I don't think they will. I think my kids will eat them up, so we're gonna have to restock this bar cart on a regular basis, but that's okay. That's what Christmas is all about, right? Having fun snacks and treats to share with others. Because we created our North Pole Winter Wonderland in the foyer, we needed to move that foyer table into the dining room. So now we have a beautiful foyer table that we can decorate in here. We're gonna start off with my broken mirror Christmas tree. I made this 2 years ago. This is one of my favorite holiday pieces. It's so special, it's so large, and I love the way that it reflects all of the light in this room. And I'm not even gonna hang it up on the wall because I didn't want to poke any nail holes in the wall, and I didn't know if a command hook would hold it up. So what I'm doing with my Christmas tree picture is I'm just going to lean it up against the wall. In front of my mirror, I have my orchid arrangement. This is the orchid arrangement that we made out of a light fixture. The light fixture that was in this dining room originally, we took it down, we turned it into a container for this orchid arrangement. And all I'm gonna do with this is add some extra holiday details. I have some ornaments that I placed at the base and also some mirrored stars. Doing this is a cheap and easy way to theme a piece that you already have into a different holiday or season. And then to the sides, I have some bottle brush trees. I placed them on some mini cake stands and a mini cupcake stand. This gives symmetry to my table because I put 3 on either side. And they also add some extra sparkle and they go along with the Christmas tree theme that's on this table. Let me show you how I created this beautiful dining table centerpiece. I wanted the focal points in this room to be nativities because after all, Christmas in our family is about the birth of our Savior. So I want that to be front and center in this room. So what I did was I took one of my favorite nativity sets, and this year I put it on top of a mirror. I love how this mirror has different segments. So I placed my nativity pieces in these different segments of this mirror. In the center, I have a cake stand, which I put my Holy Family on, which raised them up a little bit. And then I put a large cloche over the top. I love the way this looks. It's simple, it's clean, but it is a beautiful focal point where you cannot miss the fact that this nativity is the centerpiece to this dining table. On either side of my nativity, I have some teardrop swags. Last year, I used these teardrop swags to hang from my lanterns on either side of my mirror. So this year, I'm just repurposing them in a different way. I put it on either side of my circular nativity scene, and to theme it a little more holiday, I added some extra ornaments, some extra pine cones, and I also added some battery-operated flicker flame candles. I love candlelight in a dining room, especially in the evening time when the lights are dimmed. I love the flicker of the candle. I placed these flicker flame candles inside of some votive candle holders, and then I placed them on top of some mercury gold votive candle holders. These are smaller. By placing these candles on top of these smaller mercury glass candle holders, it makes them stand out and not get muddled in between all of the greenery and the ornaments that are in the teardrop swag below. Now let's bring our eyes up to the chandelier. This year I added some snowflakes behind the crystal drops on the bottom tier of this chandelier, and then I added a sage bow to the top of the chandelier. This is definitely a theme that I'm going for this year with my light fixtures. I have bows on my pendant lights in the kitchen. I have bows on my sconces in the formal living room. So in order to tie those spaces together, adding a bow to this chandelier in here is a perfect option. I think our dining room turned out beautifully. I love the final look of everything. It all ties together with the rest of the house. We incorporated sage in here. We incorporated the white, the gold, all the other elements, all the other ornaments that we have in the rest of the house. The flocking on the trellis tree goes perfectly with the flocking that's on our large Christmas tree in the family room. I think that my favorite time to be in this room is at night, because I love the glow from the nativity scene. These lights bounce off the mirrors and off the chandelier. The broken mirror Christmas tree reflects all those lights. The mirror also reflects that North Pole winter wonderland that we have in the foyer. It just comes to life at night. We are done decorating for this Christmas season. Can you believe it? I feel like we've been doing it for so long, but it's nice to finally be done and be able to kick back and enjoy all of the hard work and effort that we put into each of these rooms to make them festive. On my island, I created a bottle brush tree forest. I rounded up several varieties of bottle brush trees from a few different stores. I purchased some at Home Goods. I got a few at Five Below. I picked up some at Target, and the green bottle brush trees are from the Dollar Tree. I'm going to add several of my bottle brush trees inside of some jars. I have a variety of jars from small, medium to large. So inside of each of my jars, I put in some Epsom salt. This is a cheap way to create some snow. I got a huge bag at Target for $4.99. I poured the Epsom salt into the base of each of my jars Not only is this a great way to get some mock snow, but it also holds your pieces in place. It gives them some stability so they will stand upright. Inside of this large jar, I'm going to add, of course, the trees, but I also found this antique Santa at a thrift store. He's from 1986 and he only cost $4.99. Came in a box, pristine condition, a treasure, I tell you. He looks perfect in there and fits so nicely. And then I also added some of the bottle brush trees into my other jars. The trees that I did get were pretty monochromatic in the whites, the creams, and the golds, and then the dollar trees were my pop of color. Those were the green. So I really like the monotone look that each of these trees bring to this space. Now, I took my jars when I was finished and I placed them on top of a vinyl runner. This is great for a kitchen because, again, if it gets spilled on, you can just wipe it off. And then I placed a sled on top of the runner. I purchased this at Michael's 2 years ago. I placed my large jar on top of the sleigh, and then I added a few more bottle brush trees, and then I placed a Joy Noel sign. Again, this is from Michael's. I put that in the front. To the side, I placed my medium and my small jar with the bottle brush trees, and then I had 2 leftover trees, and I placed those at the base on top of some marble coasters. The final addition that I'm making to my jars is to add a ribbon. I simply tied this ribbon around the top of the jars and left some long tails. This is a super easy way that takes no skill to add a bit of drama. And that's it for this centerpiece. Super easy. I think it looks fantastic. It is definitely the focal point of this island, and everything on it is washable, so it's perfect for a kitchen. Underneath my cabinets and on either side of my stovetop, I created some small displays. I first started off by using a marble cutting tray as the base. I added 3 bottle brush trees that coordinated with my centerpiece. And then to beautify the space, I'm going to add some small flower arrangements. This is a great way to bring in a natural feeling into your decor because it's got these beautiful botanicals. So I got a variety of flowers. I purchased a few of them from Michael's. Some are from the Dollar Tree. And then I also got a bowl. This is just a kitchen bowl. I have 2 matching ones. I'm not even using a base because I wanted it to be able to be, again, cleaned easily. So just a plain kitchen bowl is going to work perfectly, and it's white, so it's great. It goes along with my color scheme. And as you guys know, I love to use the tape grid method. So I'm going to get some Scotch tape and I'm going to run a few lines that span the distance of the top of the bowl to create a grid. Then I took my flowers, I bent the stems, and I nestled those flowers right in between the tape grids on my bowl. I added several pretty white flowers. I added some poinsettias. I also added some gold leaves that coordinate with my other greenery in the room. And finally, I added some stems of gold berries. These are the perfect size arrangement for my kitchen. They're small enough that I can press them back against the backsplash and it won't encroach too much on the counter space. I wanted to be able to put something on my backsplash to really highlight the pot filler because it is the focal point in this space. So I thought if I put a wreath to the back of the pot filler, it would be a great way to highlight this area. I have a wreath form that's pretty sparse. I've had it for a while and it definitely needed some beefing up. So I took some leftover garland from last week and I cut some of those pieces off. I took those segments and I weaved them into my wreath. I don't need any additional floral wire because all I have to do is twist those pine branches together and they will stay in place. To wrap around my wreath, I got 2 different ribbons. The first one is from Target. It is a white ribbon with a gold border. And the second one is a sparkly ribbon that I purchased at Michael's. I took the ends of these ribbons and I placed them together. Then I got a segment of floral wire, wrapped it around the end of the ribbons to secure together, and then I twisted the wire around the wreath form to secure the ribbon to the wreath. Then I simply took these ribbons and I wrapped them around the wreath form. Every time I made a full circle around the wreath, I got one of the branches and I wrapped it around the ribbons so they would stay in place. Again, I'm going to coordinate my wreath with all of the other elements in the room, and so I'm going to continue to use these gold leaves. So I took the leaves and I pressed them into the form and weaved them underneath the ribbons. I have this beautiful Merry Christmas ribbon that I used on my topiary, so again, I'm going to use it in my wreath. I pinched the center of the ribbon together in the center, so Merry was on one side and Christmas was on the other. Then I got a small piece of the thin ribbon, tied it around the center, and then tied it to my form. Next, I'm going to add some poinsettia stems. The good thing about this is that the poinsettia stems were wired, so it's easy to twist them around the wreath. I have a variety of ornaments that I'm going to be adding to the wreath. I have everything from glass ornaments to the coordinating cream and satin ornaments that I used on my orchid flower arrangement. And then I have some filler ornaments, which are in a variety of sheens and finishes in gold. I'm going to add those to my wreath at various places to fill in any vacant spaces. And then the final touch is to add a few stems of gold berries. And that's it for the wreath. I think it's elegant and beautiful and will be a great addition back here. So you may be wondering, how am I gonna hang that on a backsplash? Well, I don't know about you, but command hooks during the holidays are one of my best friends because just put them up, use them for the season, and then take them down. So that's what we're going to be using to hang our wreath. I put my wreath around the pot filler first, and then I moved it in place to where I knew I wanted it to be. I added the command hook to the tile and then placed my wreath on the hook. This wreath is a great way to add a focal point to the backsplash. It draws your eye past the centerpiece on the island and straight to the backsplash. I love having glass fronted cabinets. It's a beautiful way to display your dishware. I'm going to be swapping out a few pieces for some holiday pieces. I purchased a beautiful, almost like it's a plate and a bowl at the same time. I got this at Home Goods and it was only $7.99. I also have a very special keepsake. It's this plate right here, and I got it from my great-grandfather. So having it in a cabinet is a great way to display it, and it's also a great way to keep it safe. And then I also purchased a coordinating bowl plate piece that I got at Ross, and it has some beautiful gold snowflakes on it. I placed each of these pieces on a frame easel to hold them upright. Now at the top of my cabinets, I wanted to put some plates. I needed some small plates. I could not find any, but what I could find was some paper plates at Target. These Merry and Bright plates are perfect for this space. And guess what? You would never know they are paper because they're up so high, and the gold just is so reflective that it looks like a regular plate. If you want to swap out your plates for decorative seasonal plates, but you're on a tight budget, using plastic or paper plates is a great way to do it. You can find some beautiful plastic and paper plates that will be perfect for displaying. The final addition to my cabinets are these Shannon crystal candlesticks. What I did was I just flipped them over, and to me, they look like snowflakes. I'm going to add these crystal snowflakes to the top of a stack of plates. By doing this, I was able to save money by not purchasing anything new. I just took something that I already had and reused it in a different way. Lastly, I'm going to add a mirrored tray to my cooktop. To the center of the tray, I'm adding a candle. I love decorating with candles. I love the glow and the ambiance that it brings. So a candle is a definite must in my kitchen. And then I took a beaded garland and I wrapped it around the base of the candle. My final tip is that if you notice, most of my decor is on top of trays. So that way, if I really needed to use the full countertop, I could easily pick up that decor piece and move it over to a table and then move it back. My kitchen is all set and decorated for the holidays. I love the way that everything came together. I have some great focal points that are the right size. I still have counter space. And all of my pieces are user-friendly, meaning I can wipe them all off if they do get spilled on, and everything's gonna be okay. I don't have a flocked tree, and I'm finding it really hard to commit to flocking it because once it's done, it's permanent. And so I haven't done it in the past, but I really love the look of a flocked tree. So what we're gonna do today is we are going to create some flocked pieces that we can add into a tree. I found some garland at Walmart, and then I also got this Santa Snow for $2 at the Dollar General. I got a couple of cans of this, and what I did was I took my garland outside and I sprayed it in this Santa Snow. I sprayed a pretty thorough coat, and dependent on how thick you put this snow on determines how long you'll need to wait for it to dry. Mine took quite a long time because I put a decent amount on it, close to 2 hours. Once it was dry, I flipped it over and I sprayed the other side, and then I let it dry overnight. Now that our garlands are flocked, we're going to bring out these teardrop swags. I purchased 2 of these at Bell's, and they were $16.99 a piece. The first thing I did was I laid out all of my additional decorations, then I fluffed up all of the branches. I don't know about you, but I feel like 50% of Christmas decorating is simply fluffing up branches, right? It's so time consuming, but it looks so great after you're done. So once all my branches were fluffed up, I took my flocked garland and some wire cutters. I cut off between a 6 and 10 inch long segment. Then I took these pieces and intertwined them. I cut several segments from the large garland and interspersed them with the green pine branches, all throughout these 2 teardrop swags. Check out this swag now. What a difference. A little bit of flocking mixed in with the original pine branches gives these swags a wintry feel, and I didn't have to commit to flocking the whole thing. Next, I'm going to add some gold leaves. I had these leaves in my floral stash already. I didn't need any more green in my greenery, so we're going to paint these leaves gold. I took them outside, placed them on some cardboard, and I began spraying them in a gold metallic Rust-Oleum spray paint. I sprayed a thorough coat over the top of the leaves, making sure that I got all of the greenery covered in the paint. Then I let the first coat dry for 30 minutes. When the 30 minutes was up, I flipped the leaves over and I sprayed the back side, again making sure that each part of the leaf was completely covered in the paint, and then I let them dry for 1 hour. I tucked these gold leaves into the pine branches throughout the swag. This touch of gold brings a luxurious feel, and also the metallic sheen is a great contrast against the more matted, mute colors of the pine branches. It's also going to tie in the other gold embellishments, like these gold berries. I took several short stems of these gold berries and interspersed these throughout the swags. Next, I'm going to add in some beautiful ornaments. To tie all of these ornaments together, I'm now going to add a few to my swags. At this point, I needed to hang my swags on my lantern so I could wrap the ribbon around it. And it's just easier to do it this way. So as you can see, I added some ribbon. I love this Merry Christmas ribbon. I added more ornaments, poinsettias, and at the top I created a large bow with some white ribbon and gold and white sparkly ribbon. If you find a piece at the store and you think, hey, that's pretty good, bring it home and add some more elements to it. This will make it feel custom. By doing this, you can coordinate it to fit in with your existing holiday decorations. Coordination is key when you're trying to create a cohesive space. Now, we're going to be making a topiary tree out of a garland. You don't always have to have a tree. Sometimes you can just use a garland and wrap it around it. So let me show you how I did it. I took my white antiqued urn with some gold embellishments, and I added a large gold trellis to the center. Next, I took a pretty plain garland and I wrapped it in some Christmas lights. I cut some segments of floral wire to attach the garland to the trellis. I wrapped the wire around the top of the trellis and around the end of the garland and twisted it together to secure it to the trellis. I wrapped the garland around the trellis, and every time it made a full circle, I got a piece of that floral wire and I wrapped it around the garland and the trellis to make it stay in place. To add some winter white to our Christmas trees, we're going to cut off a few more of those segments of the flocked garland that we created earlier. I cut off a 6 to 8 inch piece, and then I added it to the garland on the trellis. Now, the nice thing about these garland pieces is that they're wired, so you don't have to add any additional wire. All you have to do is twist those branches around the garland. I have some really pretty white satin ribbon, and I'm going to use that and wrap it around my tree. So I started at the top and I made a loop with this ribbon, and again, I got a segment of the floral wire, twisted it around the loop, and then twisted it around the garland. I draped the ribbon around the tree and created loops at various places. Next, I took some of this sparkly gold and cream ribbon, and I did the same thing. I got a segment of the floral wire, created some loops, and then had it cascade down the tree as well. I took a segment of this Merry Christmas ribbon, and then I took a smaller segment of this thin ribbon. I took the thin ribbon and I wrapped it around the center so you could still see Merry on one side and Christmas on the other, and then tied it to the tree. Like my swags, I added some poinsettias, gold berries, more of those spray painted gold leaves, and additional ornaments. I added my topiary trees to either side of my tabletop, and underneath the topiaries, I have a cotton fuzzy blanket. I folded this blanket into thirds to create a runner, which has a perfect wintry feel. It's going to be a great base to put all of my other pieces, and the light, bright color will make everything else pop. In the back, I have 2 glass trees. They are gold and green, and I placed them on top of a small cake stand to give them some height. The focal point is going to be what's important to me, and that is the birth of our Savior. I'm going to divide up my nativity into 3 separate areas. On either side, I took a marble tray and added the larger pieces of my nativity, which were the camels. I topped the camels with a glass cloche and then tied a white ribbon around the glass knob at the top. In the center, I wanted something substantial to put my nativity on, and I didn't have a tray that was large enough. And if you ever priced out large trays, especially trays that have a mirrored bottom, they can get so expensive. So what I did was I found a wall mirror at Ross, and it was $21.99, and I'm going to repurpose it and use it as a tray. So I put that tray down first. To the center, I added another small cake stand. I added the key figures to the top of this cake stand, and then I covered it in another glass cloche. Surrounding the baby Jesus are all of our supporting characters. We have the wise men, a shepherd, and of course our farm animals. I love the way that this nativity is displayed. It's custom, it's unique. I haven't seen anything like this before. This holiday tabletop decor turned out so much better than I had hoped. I absolutely love the way that it looks. I'm thrilled with the way that each piece turned out, from the embellished teardrop swags to the garland Christmas trees, and then also we have our ornaments. They are custom, and they are definitely one of my favorite pieces about this display. I hope something here inspired you in your Christmas decorating and gave you some ideas to create some unique and special Christmas decor. One of my favorite places to decorate at Christmas time is the mantle. It's that time of year where we can go all out and make this area a major focal point. In the past, I have done several styles of mantelscapes. The first thing that we're gonna need, of course, is a garland. What I like to do with my garlands is I take two of them and I intertwine them together to make them look really full and lush. I also like to add a lot of lights to my garlands. The more lights, the better. So the first thing that I needed to do was add some command hooks. I put one on either side of my mantelscape, and then I also got some floral wire and I wired it around the garland on either end so that I could attach the garland to the command hook. You do not want your garland falling off mid-season, so make sure that you get those garlands securely in place. I draped my garlands so there was a slight dip in the center and a long billowing end on the right-hand side. I have collected quite a few strands of gold beads over the course of several years, so I'm just using beads that I already have. Now, I did go to Target the other day and I saw that they had some gold beaded garlands there. They were by the ornaments, so if you are looking for some, I have seen them there. What I did was I took my large beaded gold garland first. I attached it to the pine garland simply by weaving those pine branches around the garland. This is great. You don't have to add any additional wire because the garland is already wired. So I attached it to the garland and then I simply just draped it so it was below the pine garland. I made one dip and then brought it up about 2/3 of the way across the garland and then made a second dip and brought it up to the top corner. I continued this design with my smaller beaded garlands. I simply mimicked the shape of the previous laid garland. Again, I just used those pine branches to hold the garlands in place. I added several strands of garland to create this draped design. I love that it looks like an elegant layered necklace. Can't you see something like this draped across the neck of an elegant lady? It's just very Gatsby-esque to me, and I just love the way that it looks. Now that my garlands are hung, we have 3 distinct areas where everything was attached. Now, I don't want to look at where things are attached, so we're just gonna hide it. And we're gonna do it with some bows. I created some bows out of some thick white satin ribbon and then also some sparkly gold ribbon. I tied them into a bow and I placed these bows in the areas where the gold beaded garlands were connected to the pine garland. Next, I took one of these white snowflake ornaments and I took a thinner piece of satin ribbon and I threaded it through the ornament and then I tied it around the bow. Again, I'm leaving long tails all throughout my decor. I love the way the long tails look on the ribbon. It's just so elegant. Next, I took some gold and white poinsettias and I placed those above the ribbons. The poinsettias help to draw your eye to these specific areas, and it also helps cover up all the areas where everything is connected. Next, I took some white and gold snowflake ornaments and I scattered those throughout the garland. Then I placed several varieties of ornaments throughout the garland. I have some sparkly ornaments, some shiny, some matte, some glittery ornaments, all kinds. The bigger the variety, the better. In order to enhance the length of this side of the garland, I decided to add some tassels. These beautiful tassels add length to the side. It drapes so beautifully down this garland, and it's an unexpected element. I have found some amazing treasures at my thrift store in the past, but this guy right here is definitely one of the best. I found him at my local thrift store and he was only $6.99. That is an amazing price. I've looked for Santas in the past and they can get so pricey. So I scooped this guy up for $6.99. Is he in perfect condition? No. But we're gonna try our best to bring him back to his former glory. Now, his hands and his face were pretty dirty, so we're just gonna start off by washing him. I got a damp rag and I wiped off his hands really well. There were a few marks that were pretty stubborn that wouldn't come off, so I got out my magic eraser and I rubbed that really firmly over his little hands and the dirt came right up. As I was washing off his face, I did notice that on his nose he had a chip. The paint had been chipped off. So after I washed his face off, I got some craft paint. I mixed a pink and a red together to match the color that was on his cheeks. I painted his nose in this pinkish red color and it looks like it was always supposed to be that way. Santa is, after all, supposed to have a cherry red nose, right? So after I was done with his nose, I got that damp rag and I continued to wipe off his robe. I got all of the dust off and then I got a pair of scissors and I trimmed off any errant threads. I really liked his hat, but I thought we can do better. So we're gonna add a little bit of flair. I got 2 holly leaves and a gold metal snowflake. I hot glued them together and then I hot glued them to the hat. I had another gold metal snowflake and I put some hot glue on that and I hot glued that to the center of his belt. These 2 small additions that we added to Santa give him that extra flair that he needed. What is Santa without an overflowing bag of presents? I got a canvas bag and I stuffed it full of polyfill. Then I got some small gift boxes and I placed those on top so that they would overflow out of the bag. What a great transformation this Santa got. He was pretty tired, like we all are this time of year, but he got a much needed refresh so he could look his best coming down the chimney, delivering presents on Christmas Eve. To add balance and symmetry to my fireplace, I needed another tall element to go with my tall Santa. I have these gorgeous gold mercury glass candlesticks. They're really tall. I purchased these at HomeGoods. And what I'm going to do is add a mercury mirrored star. It's an ornament. I purchased these at Michael's. They were $9.99, but of course I went when it was 40% off, so I got them on sale. I cut off the original ribbon that came with the ornament, and then I added a white and gold ribbon. This ribbon will coordinate with the rest of the ribbon that I have in this room. As you know, I have ribbon everywhere this year in my decor. So again, I needed some that was going to coordinate and tie in the other pieces in the room to my mantelscape. So I took that ornament and I added it to my candlestick. I just simply tied it around it and let it drape down. Then I took one of my candlesticks and I placed it on top of this gift wrapped box. It adds variation in height and a little more interest to my display. And just like that, our plain candlesticks are now themed Christmas. Sometimes you don't have to go above and beyond. We already did that with the garland. We went above and beyond that. So to do something a little simpler is best. It's a lot easier. It's still themed Christmas. All I did was take a piece that I already had. I added a holiday element to theme it Christmas. Well, I am just thrilled with the way that this mantelscape turned out. It feels so luxurious and elegant. The color scheme and the similar ribbons and ornaments complement the other holiday decorations I have throughout this open space. I love the additional sparkle that it brings into the room with all of those Christmas lights nestled inside of the garland. I'm excited for Santa to come down the chimney and be greeted by this Christmas scene. We're going to start off by making some topiaries that I'm going to put on the top of a large glass vase. I got a styrofoam ball from Michael's that I covered in pieces of pine garland. I have been using gold beaded garland this entire Christmas season, so it only makes sense that I use it on these to tie everything together. I got this particular gold beaded garland at Target. I took the end of the gold garland, placed a floral pin on the garland, and then pressed them both against the styrofoam ball to hold the beaded garland in place. Then I made a dip and brought it back up and adhered it to the styrofoam ball with another floral pin. Once I got back to the original starting point, I just began to do that same process again, only this time my dips were a little more shallow so that they would run along the top portion of my first row of garland. Once I was done with the second row, I started on a third. I did it the exact same way, using the floral pins to adhere the garland to the styrofoam ball as I went. Now, I like to cover up the mechanics of things. I don't like to see where things are attached. So I'm going to make some bows to put over the top of where the beaded garland is attached to the styrofoam ball. So I made a large white bow and I got a floral pin, placed it in the center, and then pressed it into the styrofoam ball. I did not want to leave the center of the bows plain, so what I did was I got a few frosted leaves, a gold stem of berries, another bow that I created with a white and gold polka dot ribbon. I'm going to put all those together and then get a floral pin and place it in the center of the bow to create a beautiful design element that adds a unique detail to the center of the bow. I did two different styles of bows. I did the large white one, and then I did this second one, which is a little bit smaller. I didn't want to have giant bows everywhere, so I did one that was just a little bit smaller. I made this bow with a white and gold ribbon, and in the center, I did some more of those frosted leaves, and then this time I chose to use some ornaments. I just gathered a bunch of ornaments and placed it underneath the frosted leaves and placed it in the center of the bow. Then I placed a few hanging crystals from the topiary ball. I got some fishing line and I threaded it through the crystal and pressed the top of the fishing line into this topiary ball. And then a final touch was to add a few gold berries at the top. These vases are quite large and I needed to fill the center with something. So I got some gorgeous crystal snowflake ornaments from Home Goods. I threaded a white ribbon through the ornament and then attached it to the bottom of the styrofoam ball so it could hang in the center of the vase. It's an elegant touch and it has a beautiful sparkle, but most importantly, it fills the empty space in the space with a unique creative piece. And then at the bottom of the vases, I filled it with that Epsom salt snow. I have used that Epsom salt pretty much everywhere in all of my jars, so I thought it was only fitting that I put it in these vases as well. Now that my topiaries are all finished, I placed them on a marble tray and then I layered two wreaths together. I put a pine wreath on the bottom and a gold bottle brush wreath over the top. Adding layers like this combine textures and colors, which make this piece very custom. Because I have my two tall topiaries on either end of the table, I decided to do a shorter piece in the center. Now I have one reindeer. He is the quintessential definition of a stag. he has yet to find his mate. So I haven't really known what to do with him until I saw my sleigh, and I thought he can pull the sleigh by himself. So the first thing I did was I took this sleigh and I put a bag inside. And if those boxes look familiar, it's because we created those last week on my Cricut Maker, and I loved them so much that I decided to make a whole lot more in a variety of different sizes. I placed a few in the bag and they have even spilled out onto the ground. To create the reindeer harness, I am again using that gold beaded garland. I took some floral wire and I wired it around one of the gold beads and attached it to the sleigh, and then brought it up and attached it to the ribbon that I have around his neck. And then I repeated the process on the other side. And just like that, I have a solution for my solo reindeer. So if you don't have a set, you can always have one reindeer pull a sleigh. He's strong enough, he can do it. The other things that I have on my centerpiece are some bottle brush trees, and then I have a few glass trees as well. On either side of my riser, I put some frosted leaves, and then I put a few reindeer picks to tie in with my reindeer theme, and then I put a few pine cones in the center. This centerpiece is so beautiful. It's elegant and rustic at the same time. I've used elements that are unique to this room, but also that tie in with the decor in the rest of the house. Last year, I created this Christmas countdown clock, and it immediately became one of my all-time favorite pieces for Christmas. My little ones love moving the hand every morning. It's just a treasure. Another one of those repeating elements that I have used in my Christmas decorations this year are asymmetrical garland designs. So of course it would only make sense that I did it on this as well. I first placed a pine garland that had some twinkle lights inside, and then I got my gold beaded garland. I started at the far corner. I attached the end of the gold garland to the pine garland by simply taking a pine branch and wrapping it around the gold beaded garland. I made a dip and went about 2/3 of the way across the top, attached it to the pine garland, and then made another dip and attached it to the far left corner by wrapping another pine branch around it. Then I went back the other way and made a shallower dip to go above the first dip. I attached everything together by simply using the pine branches that were on the pine garland. To cover up the places where everything is attached, I'm again going to be using some bows. I created some bows and I attached them to the garland with the pine branches right where the gold beaded garland was attached to the pine garland. Then I added some poinsettias, gold berries, a variety of ornaments, some crystals hanging from fishing line, and 2 beautiful tassels. I got it at my local thrift store and it was only $3.50, which is a great deal. One thing that I did not like about this Christmas tree was that it had a burlap base and it was not the sturdiest tree. It kept toppling over. So to remedy both of these problems, I got this white container and I placed an upturned votive candle holder into the bottom to add some height. Then I placed my thrifted tree inside of the container and ta-da, a thrifted makeover. Now, I know it's not the most elaborate thrifted makeover that I've ever done, but guess what? It's Christmas time and this tree was pretty good to begin with, so it didn't need a whole lot of tweaking. So once it was in my container, I decorated it with some beautiful ornaments, some hanging crystals, a few gold berries, and then for my tree topper, I'm using another one of those crystal snowflakes, the same ones that I used inside of my vase. I attached it to the top, and this beautiful tree is complete. To cover up the base of the stand and also to kind of hide the cords, What I did was I just got some empty boxes and I wrapped them in some wrapping paper and tied some gold bows around it. I love the way that these presents look down here. They give additional height to the tree, they cover up the ground, and it gives this space an additional holiday touch. Now it's time to move on to the back wall, which is where I have my nativities set up. For me and my family, the true meaning of Christmas is the birth of Christ, and so I wanted to make sure that I had a beautiful display of all of my nativities. My collection keeps growing, which is a great thing, but I needed to spread it out a little bit more this year, and so placing it on top of this buffet area is perfect. What I did was in the center, I got a lantern and I placed Mary, Joseph, and the baby Jesus inside of this lantern, and then I spaced out the remaining characters around this lantern. I also added several other of my nativities that I've collected over the course of several years and in my travels. On either side, I also have a framed picture of Mary and the baby Jesus, as well as a very poignant scripture. To the top of my buffet, I added some twinkle lights, and to soften the lights just a bit, I added some polyfill to go over the top of the lights. At night, it just looks heavenly. It looks like everything's floating, and it adds a soft ambient light to highlight these nativities. I wanted to do something fun and unique with these candle sconces that I have on either side of my oil painting. And if you remember, a few weeks back, I decided to put some teardrop swags underneath some lantern sconces in my family room. And so I didn't want to mimic that same look, but I wanted to do something fun and exciting. So I thought that putting a wreath behind this sconce would be a great alternative. I simply took a pine wreath, wrapped a gold and white sparkly ribbon around it, and then placed them behind the candle sconce. I attached them to the top of the sconce by simply wrapping one of those pine branches around the metal portion of the sconce. To decorate my pine wreath, I'm going to be using a variety of ornaments, a few botanicals, and then to tie in my teardrop swags with these wreaths, I'm going to add that same Merry Christmas ribbon to the top. I absolutely love the way that this dining room looks. Not only did it complete my Christmas decorating, but it is a show-stopping space. I used the same elements here as I did in the rest of the home, but I added some unique elements so this space has its own personality. We are going to start off at the tippity top of this mirror, and we're going to make a garland and drape it over the top. I began by placing some command hooks above the mirror, one on either corner of the mirror. Next, I got a pine garland and I weaved a string of Christmas lights through the garland, and then I got some floral wire and I cut some segments off and I put the floral wire at the end of one part of the garland and about a third of the way from one of the ends. I wrapped that wire around the garland and then I hung it on the command hooks. Now, do you remember the fireplace mantle we did not too long ago? I did it in an asymmetrical style. I used gold beaded garland to accentuate the shape. I loved it so much, I wanted to mimic that on my mirror. Not only do I love the shape, but recreating that design ties the two spaces together. So I took the end of the gold beaded garland and I wrapped a pine branch around the end. I made a small dip in the garland and then attached it back up to the pine garland about 2/3 of the way across the top garland. I made a second dip and attached it to the top corner. I created several rows of beaded garland dips to create a luxurious, sparkly design. Just like in my fireplace garland, I'm going to be creating some bows to add in the places that everything is connected, because we don't want to see where things are connected, so we can hide them through placing these bows over the top. So I created these bows and I placed them right where the gold beaded garland connects to the pine garland. Then I added a variety of poinsettias, some gold berries, gold and crystal gems, and hung them by the fishing line so they look like they're floating. And then, of course, a variety of ornaments. I created these paper ornaments on my Cricut Maker. I'm using a cardstock. Cricut has a big variety of cardstock. I chose a white cardstock to make my ornaments out of. I simply peeled back the cardstock from the ornament, and then I gently peeled the ornaments off the mat. I did this with both of my ornament designs. I love how these two designs complement each other and resemble lace. Once I had my ornaments peeled off, all I had to do was get an ornament hook, put it through the hole at the top of the paper ornament, and hang it on my garland and on my mini tree. These ornaments are a perfect addition because they bring in white, which I am decorating in a winter white, so it brings in that white color, and it just finishes off the garland and the tree beautifully. I can't even tell you how much I love this garland. It is so striking. It draws your eye upward and it makes this foyer space feel grand. Next up, let's decorate this foyer table. We're gonna start off by making our Christmas tree forest. In my kitchen, I created a centerpiece with apothecary jars and bottle brush Christmas trees. Again, to tie these two pieces together, I'm going to be recreating that look in a similar way on my foyer table. I had some gorgeous apothecary jars in a variety of sizes, and I filled them with some Epsom salt. I love using Epsom salt because it really does look like snow, and I got a giant bag at Target for only $4.99, and I've used it pretty much everywhere, so I've definitely gotten my money out of this Epsom salt. I poured a bit of this Epsom salt into the bottom of each one of my jars, and then I placed a bottle brush tree in the center. In this short round jar, I placed in a mini cupcake stand, and then I put in a snow globe that I created last Christmas. And finally, I added 2 small trees. Like my kitchen jars, these jars are gonna get a bow wrapped around the top as well. I created some bows and I left some long tails. The difference between my kitchen jars and my foyer jars, because the foyer's a little more formal, I'm going to add a beautiful, sparkly crystal ornament to each one of my jars. I placed 2 of my jars on top of a marble tray, and the larger one is just right on the table. And then I got 2 small Dollar Tree cloches that I spray painted gold and then put some of that bling wrap around the base. And inside of those, I have another bottle brush tree and some more Epsom salt snow. One of my favorite family treasures are these Christmas lists that my husband and I wrote when we were children. I get them out every year and just love them. So these are my treasures. They are gonna take center stage on this table. I placed my husband's framed Christmas list on top of a gift wrapped box, and I wanted to add some more gift boxes, and I know that Cricut has some awesome options. So I went to my Cricut design space and I created some more boxes there. In my Cricut design space, I hit New Project, I clicked on Images. In the search bar, I typed in Gift Box, and on the operation type, I did Cut Only. Several options came up. I clicked on this one and hit Add to Canvas. I selected my box and went to Size and put in the size that I needed. Once it was sized appropriately, I hit Make It. It sorted it onto my mats, and I am doing it on the mat. I clicked save, and then I clicked continue. Now we're going to be selecting our materials. My material wasn't on the main page because I'm using a mixed materials in a gold party foil. So I had to browse all materials, and in the search bar I typed in party foil, and it came up. I selected it, and then I hit save. I clicked more on the pressure. To load my material, I clicked the flashing arrow button, and then to begin the cutting process, I hit that flashing play button. It loaded it into my Cricut Maker and began cutting it. Once it was 100% done cutting, I unloaded my material by hitting that flashing arrow button, and now I have the scallop detail for my box. I went directly back to the computer screen and selected my cardstock that was going to be my box, and then I did more on the pressure. I loaded my cardstock into my Cricut Maker by hitting that flashing arrow button, and then hit the flashing play button, which began the cutting process. Once it was 100% done cutting, I unloaded this mat by hitting the flashing arrow button, and then I hit finish on the computer. I peeled away the excess cardstock from around the box, and then I gently peeled the box off of the mat. I did the same thing with my party foil. I simply removed the excess and then peeled the scallop detail off of the mat. Then I began to fold my box. There are these little cut marks along the edges where you're supposed to fold it, so it was really easy to create. I hot glued the edges of the boxes together. That way they would stay in place. And then I hot glued the scalloped gold foil piece right underneath the lip of the box. Finally, I wrapped a white and gold ribbon around the box. This ribbon will tie these gift boxes in with the jars. These cute little boxes are the perfect addition to this tablescape. They add some fun interest, and they really tie into the whole Christmas list idea, because a gift and a Christmas list go together. On the end of my foyer table, I'm going to be adding a thrifted Christmas tree that I got last year. Again, I'm filling it with the same things that I put on my garland. It's got those gorgeous ornaments. It's got some ribbons, some berries, some poinsettias, and at the top, I have this gorgeous Mercury mirrored glass Christmas star. It adds the sparkle and the sheen that this display needs. It also ties in with all of the crystals, and it reflects those beautiful Christmas lights back into the room. Also, having this tree here adds balance to this wall, because we have this huge garland that only goes on half of the mirror. We have the other straight line right here that's vacant. So by adding a tall piece on this side, it tricks your eye into thinking that everything is cohesive and balanced. The way this entire foyer wall looks with the table and the mirror and the garland and everything is one of my favorite foyer looks that I've ever done. It feels elegant and grand. It sets the tone for what's going to be expected in the rest of the home. And at night, with the sparkly Christmas lights shining, it just looks magical. Having Christmas lights up that high on the wall brings a glow into this space. I've been in a rut where I typically just stick to pine trees and poinsettias in my Christmas decorating. I personally love orchids, and I really wanted to find a way to incorporate those into my Christmas decorations this year. And so I came up with this holiday floral arrangement. I purchased this white geometric container at Ross a couple of years ago. So it's gonna be my base. I filled it up with some foam and I topped it off with some moss. These gorgeous orchids were actually given to me by a friend who knows that I love flowers. If you don't have orchid stems, you can purchase them at Michael's. I've purchased them there before and they're pretty affordable. So I took my orchid stems and I poked them into the floral foam. I spaced them out equidistant from each other so the arrangement would be symmetrical. In order to give some stability to the orchid stems because they're super floppy and we want them to be able to stand straight up, I'm going to get some sticks. I'm going to cut off a few branches from a large stick with some wire cutters. I'm using these particular branches because they look Christmassy to me, but in the past I've also used some wooden dowels, so you can use those too. I took these stems and I placed them right next to my orchids. To tether the orchid stem and the branch together, I'm going to be using some really pretty champagne gold ribbon that I purchased at Michael's. I took a segment of the ribbon and I wrapped it around the orchid stem and the branch. Then I tied it into a bow. I did leave some long tails on my ribbons because I thought it looked so pretty. I repeated the process with the remaining 3 orchid stems and 3 branches. Now it's time to give this a Christmas flair. So at the base of my container, I'm going to first add some pine branches. I got this pine branch at Target. I cut some smaller branches off with some wire cutters and then poked the pine stems into the foam. I added several pine stems to the base to cover up the floral foam. Next, I'm going to add a few of these sprigs of goldberries. Again, I purchased these at Michael's. I cut some segments off the larger branch and then I poked them into the floral foam. I spaced them out all around the base of the floral arrangement. I love the way the goldberries add a pop of color and also bring in a metallic element of gold. I'm going to be adding some of these ornaments to the base. I purchased these pearlescent ornaments at Walmart, and I added the ornaments at the base of each of my orchid stem. These ornaments make this feel so luxurious and classy. And the final addition is to add some pine cones in vacant spaces to make the base feel full and lush. So what do you think about this floral arrangement? It's traditional and non-traditional at the same time. It's traditional because it has the elements of the pine cones and the pine branches and the Christmas ornaments and the berries, but it's unique because it has these gorgeous orchid stems. If there is a specific flower that you absolutely love or that you have a lot around your house, just because it's Christmas time doesn't mean that you can't continue to use it. All you need to do to theme it in Christmas is add a few traditional holiday elements. Now that our floral arrangement is complete, we are going to move on and create a garland that's going to frame this mirror. I first purchased a 9-foot garland at Walmart and it was only $2.76. That is a good price. I fluffed up the branches and then I folded the garland in half to make it thicker and fuller. Before we add all of our decorative elements, we're going to hang it on the mirror. So the first element that we're going to add to our garland is a custom ribbon. I purchased some ribbon at Michael's. It's plain and I wanted to embellish it, so we're going to do it with a Cricut iron-on detail. At Cricut Design Space, I hit New Project. I clicked on Images. In the search bar, I typed in Swirl. I scrolled down because there were a lot of options and I selected this one right here and I clicked on it and then put Add to Canvas. Brought it to my design space. I sized it to the size that I needed. Then I hit Duplicate, which made another one. I put it up right against my existing design. And once it was there, I selected all and went down and welded them together to create one. Next, I selected it again and I hit the duplicate button because I wanted to make 6 of these designs. Once I had my 6 designs, I went up and I hit Make It, which sorted it onto my mat. I'm doing without a mat because I'm using a smart vinyl. Then I clicked continue, and my material is a smart iron-on, and I forgot to hit mirror. So I went over and I hit edit, and then I did mirror because you always want to do mirror on an iron-on. And now I could hit more on the pressure, and I loaded my material by hitting the flashing arrow button, and then I hit the flashing play button, which began the cutting process. Once it was 100% done cutting, I unloaded my material by hitting the flashing arrow button, and then I went back to my computer and hit finish. I weeded away the excess vinyl from this beautiful design. I got a pair of scissors and I cut the columns into strips. And then I took my iron decal, I placed it in the center of the ribbon with the protective coating facing up. I heated up my Easy Press to 330 degrees and I set the timer for 30 seconds. I placed the Easy Press over the top of my vinyl and started the countdown by hitting that green C button. Once the timer had run down, I removed the Easy Press from the ribbon, and then I peeled away the plastic covering over the top of the vinyl. Then I repeated the process with the remaining 5 segments. Ribbon can be so expensive, especially if you're getting one with a beautiful detail on it. So by making this ourselves, we saved ourselves some money and we got a custom ribbon. You could also add some Christmas trees or some reindeer or some words like Merry Christmas or Joy. There's so many things that you could do to create a holiday themed ribbon. So at this point, I just took my ribbon and I wrapped it around my garland. We added a beautiful element of sophistication to an otherwise plain ribbon. The next element that we're going to add to our garland is a wood beaded garland. So we're gonna add a garland to a garland. So I purchased this garland at Ross and it was $7.99. What I wanted to change about this garland was the natural color of the beads, and also there were like these little pillowy Christmas trees on there. They were stuffed, they were fabric, I just cut them off. I figured I can give them to my daughter and she will get to color on them and then she can hang them on her tree, so they're not going to waste. Once these little trees were removed, I took my garland outside and I placed it into a box so the garland could hover. I'm going to paint it with some white gloss Rust-Oleum spray paint. I painted the beads thoroughly in the spray paint. Once it was completely coated in the paint, I let it dry for 30 minutes. Then I twisted the garland so the bare side was facing up, and I painted it again in a thorough coat of the spray paint. Once it was completely coated, I let it dry for 2 hours. I love the way that this white garland looks now. Not only is it going to be perfect for Christmas time, but I will be able to use it for so many holidays and decorating for the rest of the year. So I just simply draped this garland over the top of the existing garland, and I love the natural element that it adds. Next, I'm going to add some snowflake ornaments. I purchased 2 plain plastic ornaments at the Dollar Tree, and we're going to customize these as well. In my Cricut design space, I hit New Project, I clicked on Images. In the search bar, I typed in snowflakes. Several options came up. I selected this snowflake, and then I hit Add to Canvas. It brought it to my design space. I sized it to the size that I needed, and then I hit Duplicate because I wanted 4 snowflakes. At this point, I hit Make It. I'm using the mat, so I hit on the mat, clicked Continue, and then I selected my material, which was a premium vinyl that's glossy. And on the pressure, I selected more. I loaded my material by hitting the flashing arrow button, and then I hit the flashing play button, which began the cutting process. Once it was 100% finished, I unloaded my material by hitting that flashing arrow button, and now I have my beautiful snowflakes. Finally, I hit finish on the computer. I weeded away the excess vinyl from the snowflakes. Then I took my transfer tape, placed it over the top of the vinyl snowflakes. I pressed them firmly together with my scraper tool, And then I cut the snowflakes into individual pieces. I removed the backing from the vinyl and then I placed the snowflake in the center of my ornament. I got my scraper tool and I pressed the vinyl firmly to the ornament, and then I gently removed the transfer tape. I repeated this process with all 4 of my snowflakes. The reason I chose this snowflake design was because I had some coordinating glass snowflake ornaments and I knew that they would be beautiful together. Once I had my ornaments hung, I looked at it and I thought, you know, it could really use some of that champagne gold ribbon that we added to our orchid arrangement. So I added that to the garland. I would suggest that if you're going to add ribbon to it, do it before you add the ornaments, but you know, this was the design inspiration that came after the fact that the ornaments were on, so you just have to make do. But I added the ribbon to the garland and I think it's a beautiful addition. Isn't this garland a perfect addition to this mirror? It really highlights the shape of the mirror. It's not overwhelming and it doesn't block the mirror. So if you have a piece of art or a mirror that you want to decorate for Christmas, creating a garland and hanging it from the perimeter is a beautiful way to do that. These pieces were so easy to make and I absolutely love the way that they look. These pieces are a little more unique than I traditionally tend to decorate with, so I'm really excited to incorporate this into my holiday decor. I hope you enjoyed the pieces that we made today and I hope you got some inspiration. I appreciate you stopping by. Thank you so much for watching.